A whirling Darvish stormed into Minute Maid Park last night and dropped a hammer on Houston hitters. Today, the Astros counter with a native sun and some Texas-sized pitching power of their own. Can Bo Porter's young team strike back? Live from Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, Comcast Sportsnet Houston brings you Houston Astros baseball. Today, it's the rubber and deciding game of this three-game series between the Astros and the Texas Rangers. Good afternoon, everybody. Day baseball for Bill Brown, Jeff Blum, and Alan Ashby after almost witnessing one of the overpowering games in Major League history. Oh, that close last night for you, Darvish, Jeff.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to watch. I've never been able to be in the ballpark for one of those type situations, but he definitely had the no-hit, perfect game stuff until that last out of the game.
You'll see some no-hitters, maybe not perfect games necessarily, that obviously the guy has great stuff, but you may not see the type of stuff you Darvish featured last night. I thought his stuff was unhittable. The Astros hitters certainly had a very difficult time making any kind of contact, and you can see why. I mean, this was just filled with sliders that you have no chance on. There were some over-the-top breakers, changing speeds. The fastball at times was unhittable, but this one fastball, Marwin Gonzalez found a way to get to.
Yeah, Marwin had a great quote saying that he did not want to make that last out of that perfect game. Nobody wants to be on the wrong side of history, and he broke up that perfect game with that base up the middle. He kind of knew it was coming. He saw those guys throwing those fastballs up, and luckily you left it up out over the plate and gave him a chance to drive it up the middle.
We've been getting questions today, Jeff Blum. Let's say you had been in that lineup last night. Say you went 0 for 3 with a couple of punch-outs. How does that affect you for this game today?
I'm pretty thankful that we play every day and we have the chance to show up the next day with a brand new slate and can totally forget about what happened last night. And the key to baseball is having that short-term memory, and hopefully these guys forgot about what happened last night.
I perfected the short-term memory throughout my career. You do. You come out that next day. You go after it as if nothing took place the night before, and I can't think of a better way to approach a game following the stuff we saw from you, Darvish, last night.
Well, coming up next, Phil Humber hopes to author one of those outstanding games himself in his first start as an Astro. We'll have more with Julia Morales in just a moment.
On the mound for the Astros today, and pitching was something to prove. 2012 started out perfect for Humber, throwing the perfect game in April with the White Sox, with current Rangers catcher A.J. Przinsky behind the plate. After that, though, things started to go downhill, going 0 for 2 through his next 4 starts. He was placed on the DL with an elbow strain in June, and it didn't get much better when he returned, eventually falling out of the rotation by August and finishing the year with a 6.44 ERA. All right, the Astros claimed Humber off waivers this offseason, signing him to a 1-year deal, and he's off to a pretty good start for the Astros with a 1.73 ERA this spring. We'll see if he can carry that over in his first start in the Houston Astros uniform. Coming up, the Bats were pretty quiet against Darvish last night. We'll see if they can wake them up in the final game of this series.
You by Jack in the Box. Come to Jack in the Box today and try the new Hot Mess Burger. It's loaded with spicy jalapenos, onion rings, and gooey pepper jack cheese. And by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. It is a cloudy day. Cool. We had a heck of a rain after the game last night. Roof remains closed today. We had a light rain this morning. And it's the Astros and the Rangers, the deciding game of this series. The Astros trying to beat the Rangers in a series for the first time since June of '08. The starting lineup for Ron Washington begins with second baseman Ian Kinsler. It's Elvis Andrus at shortstop, Lance Berkman the DH, Adrian Beltre at third base, David Murphy in left field, Nelson Cruz the right fielder, A.J. Przinsky catching again. It's Mitch Moreland at first base and Leonis Martin in center field.
And on the mound for the Houston Astros this afternoon, Philip Humber, the right-hander, acquired in the offseason. He of the perfect game 1 year ago, that April 21st in Seattle. And what a game that was. But from there on, the season became rather difficult. Philip Humber, a guy who over the course of this spring, though, was very good, sharp throughout.
Yeah, did a great job. It seemed that he was working on a new arm angle and had it working over the spring training. See if he can carry it on into the season here. And being in his home state of Texas should be helping him out a little bit, if not emotionally.
Ian Kinsler's 2 for 7, including a homer in this series. He gets it going. And the first pitch is strike one for the 30-year-old native of Nacogdoches, Texas. Philip Humber, living now in Tyler, Texas. His family here today to watch him. He pitched Rice to the College World Series Championship in '03. And pounds that one in and quickly gets in front of Kinsler, 0-2. Just a special day for him to come back to this state After that rugged finish you mentioned last year for the White Sox. Overall, he was 5-5 for them last year. And he opens with a K.
Nice changeup to get it. Even though he leaves the changeup up a bit, the effect with that arm delivering through the zone leaves the hitter out in front. And you see the reaction. You just swing at a ball that's not quite there yet.
Yeah, you can see his head flying off the ball a little bit. I guess in one way, Phil Humber pulled the string on him and put him away.
Elvis Andrus comes up next. He's 3 for 8 in this series. 1 RBI, had a couple of triples to match the franchise record for the Rangers in his 3 for 4 game last night. That one's fouled away for strike 1. The Astros got good starting pitching again last night from Lucas Harrell, as they did Sunday night from Bud Norris. Lucas went 6 innings, gave up 1 run, but the Rangers won it 7-0. They out-hit the Astros last night 12-2. Houston had won 8-2 Sunday night. That's line to short. Ronnie Cedeno takes care of out number 2.
You know, Brownie, to your point of Lucas Harrell last night, I thought he pitched extremely well, especially when he was in some jams. Bases loaded, got behind in counts even with 3 balls, and still worked to the edges very effectively.
Carter Maxwell and Ankiel man the outfield positions with Dominguez, Cedeno, Altuve, Wallace, Castro, and Humber on the infield. Now it's Lance Berkman, the DH for the Rangers this season, off to an outstanding start. He is 5 for 8 in this series. So 2 former Rice Owls squaring off here, and there's ball 1 to Berkman. Lance has hit in 14 consecutive games here at Minute Maid Park. We're missing there. And Berkman works the count to 2 balls, no strikes. Philip Humber wrote a nice message to the Rice coach, a longtime Rice coach, Wayne Graham, who used to throw batting practice for the Astros after his perfect game last year. Crediting him with a lot of the staying power that it took to finish that perfect game last year. And I was asking him about playing for Wayne Graham the other day, Ash, and he said he was tough.
He was very tough, and he was the focus of a lot of the funny stories from Lance Berkman, talking about Graham and the difficult and challenging days playing at Rice. A couple of close pitches in that sequence as Berkman draws the walk.
He's good at doing that, laying off the close pitches. He gets the 4-pitch walk. He's aboard for Beltre. Adrian Beltre 0 for 9 in this series. But Philip Humber then went on to say he was very tough when I was there. I didn't appreciate it at the time. And Jeff, he said later on, I realized how much he had done for me and how important it was that he was tough on me at that stage of my life. He helped make me a lot better player and a lot better man because of it.
Yeah, you think about being in college and having a coach screaming and yelling at you, maybe putting you down. I mean, it's kind of fitting for the time that what's going on in Rutgers University. But on a different, I'm sure Coach Graham handled it in a much different way, and obviously enhanced these guys' careers. You may not know it at the time, but it's always later on in life when you reach back for those experiences that some of those college coaches give to you.
Jeff, you played with Lance Berkman. Did you ever have the opportunity to hear Lance sit down and start telling some stories about his experience at Rice?
He's got some good ones. Yeah, I had no idea what was going on over there or why they were so extremely successful, but a lot of it is for the head coach, and obviously he left his mark on some of these guys and he's got produced some great big league talent.
Berkman takes off, and there's the throw, and Altuve spins around, gets it back to first, but his throw is offline. So Berkman escapes. And that could have been out number 3. Really should have been, but the Astros did not execute.
We saw Lucas Harrell last night start a couple of double plays and did it beautifully, turning into an infielder and providing a nice toss over the bag. This is a very different scenario. You see Humber wind up and just bring the heat down and away. Tough location for any hitter and for a second baseman for that matter, and you just can't finish the play.
So the real error, even though you see Altuve's throw off, the real error was on Humber's throw. There was no error on the play, but the mistake that was made was that Humber threw it badly.
No, that was exactly it, Brownie. I was going to hit on that. It's the throw, the initial throw that threw Altuve off and forced him to make that, feel like he had to rush and make that throw back to first base and didn't make an accurate throw.
Mm-hmm. And I would probably ask any pitcher when during spring training and all the pitchers fielding practice you went through, did you wind up and hump one like this? It's just not the way guys do it.
True.
Point.
But you get pumped up, right? That was a good time for Berkman to go. It was 0-2 with 2 outs, and now this one, diving play. Dominguez from his knees. Beautiful play over to Altuve to force Berkman from 5-4. And it's a scoreless first inning as an Astro for Philip Humber. The Astros up against Alexi Ogando next. In his third managerial card as a major league skipper, go with Jose Altuve at second base, Brett Wallace at first, Carlos Peña's the DH with Chris Carter in left field, Jason Castro's the catcher, it's Justin Maxwell in center, Rick Ankiel in right, Matt Dominguez the third baseman, Ronnie Cedeno the shortstop against Alexi Ogando.
Yeah, Alexi Ogando comes in with that electric fastball that everybody keeps talking about. Pretty good record last year too with 19 wins. But Ted mentioned in spring training he focused a little bit more on a slider and changeup. We'll see if he learns from Yu Darvish's book about how well Astro hitters were at laying off the slider.
Ball one upstairs to Altuve, who has 3 hits in 8 at-bats to start the season. Ogando has only pitched a couple of times in his career in relief against the Astros. Strike makes it 1-1, and Ogando is 29 years old. And Jeff, you've seen him evolve now from reliever in 2010 to starter and all-star in 2011, back to reliever last year, now back to starter. That's cracked off the glove of the diving Beltre and trickles up the left field line. That gives Altuve a chance to reach with a double.
Well, I'm glad we got that perfecto no-hitter out of the way early. It's a nice start by Altuve.
It's been a nice start to a year for Altuve. If you factor in spring training as well, played extremely well with the bat and otherwise. And there's a good reason why he gets a double right here. Watch the first step coming out. He sniffs 2 bags, and he's digging from that very first step.
Good point, Ash. Beltre, a terrific glove man, slowed it down. Altuve's in scoring position now for Wallace. Ogando really eats up right-handed hitters, too.
You teach guys to run the bases like this, and you can't ask for any more.
Now Brett Wallace with 1 hit in 7 at-bats. Lays off. There's ball 1 to Wallace. His primary mission to get Altuve at least to third base. He'd love to chime in with a hit, though, and score him. With Peña on deck. Wallace had a good spring. He hit 3 homers, 5 doubles. Played third base last night. He's back at first today. Broken bat. That'll get him to third, and he'll get the barrel out by the first baseman, and they get the out at first. Mitch Moreland saw the barrel of the bat flying close to him, with Ian Kinsler getting it to the pitcher. Ogando covering on a 4-1 play to get Altuve to third.
That's the worst as an infielder, seeing 2 things come flying at you and knowing that one of them could end up lodging itself inside you.
Yeah, that's not what the desired way to do it was for Brett Wallace. He certainly wanted to be able to get the runner over if he didn't come up with a hit, but fought it off and made life difficult for the infielders.
He did.
You got to appreciate the fact that he provided the projectile, possibly deterring the fielders from feeling that ball and maybe getting a hit out of it.
Well thought out.
Little obstacle. Carlos Pena now with a runner at third and one out. Comes up 1 for 7 in his first couple of games with the Astros. Looking for his first RBI with Houston. He made his 10th opening day start Sunday night in his career.
Come on, Carlos, bring him in.
Kinsler plays out in shallow right field. That's the way the Rangers have been shifting him. Fastball takes care of strike one.
In this day and age where everybody is watching pitchers, trying to protect their arms, make sure that you do everything to keep things consistent so they don't get hurt. Intriguing story for Ogando. When you look back 2 years ago, the 2011 season, 31 outings, 29 as a starter, and then last year 58 outings, 57 of those in relief, so just one start, and now back trying to start again.
It's interesting physically, but also interesting mentally. Not knowing, I don't know if they talked to him before the season starts. Hey, we're going to move you to the pen, or hey, we're going to have you out of the rotation. But it's got to weigh on you a little bit. You know, what do you want from you guys?
Well, he certainly has served his club well, and he had a chance to play for the Dominican Republic team in the World Baseball Classic, but they wanted him to be a reliever this spring, and he turned that down because he realized he had to stretch himself out as a starter.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic with that WBC being mixed into spring training. You've got your world team that wants to do one thing with you, and then you've got your, you know, obviously your contractual obligation to your major league team.
Which begs the question, there's some pretty big bucks on the line for playing in the WBC, right, Jeff?
I had no idea. Yeah, there are big bucks involved in that whole thing. You know, not only for these players, but also for just baseball in general worldwide. So they did invest a lot into these guys and these teams. But I didn't realize how much the WBC was on the hook for some of these injuries that happened throughout some of these games.
Good point.
I didn't realize it until Hanley Ramirez blew out his thumb, I think it is, or his wrist, and they're on the hook for part of his salary. So it's a gamble for everybody in this situation. But it's nice that teams can be protected, at least financially. I'm sure they'd much rather have Hanley on the field.
Pena goes down on strikes. A big strikeout for Ogando. And we check Murphy, Martin, and Cruz are the outfielders for the Rangers. Beltre, Andrus, Kinsler, Moreland, Brzezinski, and Ogando on the infield. 2 outs now, and it's Carter coming up.
We just saw that high fastball get Carlos Pena, and that's been a difficult aspect of hitting for Pena in recent seasons. He has been a big strikeout victim, and the high heat, when you've got that little bit of an uppercut swing, is going to be a pitch that becomes awfully difficult to get to.
Carter looking for his first hit as an Astro takes, and that's strike one to Chris. 0 for 7 in the early going. A deep drive in yesterday's game off Yu Darvish.
Brownie, most people can overlook, I think managers especially overlook the strikeouts, but not with 1 out and a man on third base.
No balls, 2 strikes. Yep, contact is the mission.
And if it means shortening up early in the count, then do it.
Yeah,
because I mean those are obviously we're facing some pretty good pitching, and to be able to come back after a close to near perfect game last night and score in the first inning would have been nice.
Pressure pitching by Ogando. He reaches back, strikes out Pena, strikes out Carter, leaves a runner at third, scoreless after 1.
And it's clear cutting season, and the Dynamos Davis and Bruin will be sharpening their axes when they visit the Portland Timbers. Houston at Portland, Saturday, April 6th at 9:30 p.m. only on Comcast Sportsnet, your home for your home teams.
Are you becoming a Dynamo fan, Blummer?
I'm not. No, I've not gotten a part of the only time I really watch soccer is during the World Cup. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I have not caught the soccer fever yet.
It's an honest answer.
You are a clear-cutting fan, though, aren't you?
Big fan of clear-cutting. Yeah. Got a huge axe.
Houston native David Murphy takes strike one. He's 1 for 7 with an RBI. In his trip back home, he had a 9-game hitting streak at Minute Maid Park until last night. And a lot is going to be asked of him this year. We've talked about that in the absence of Josh Hamilton. David, a good player. And it's going to be interesting to see how he's able to produce this season. Batting 5th today. And lines this one to center field, but Maxwell is there.
Yeah, I think Murphy's a good hitter. I don't think he's going to be one of those guys who tries to fill Josh Hamilton's shoes at all. I think he's going to stick to his game plan because he's been pretty successful with it. He drilled that one right there.
It's a good point. He's been around for a few years, so I think Ron Washington is trusting him not to try to do something he's not, Plummer.
No, exactly. That's a really good point. Yeah, he's been around, been on both ends, played a lot, came off the bench a little bit, but he knows his strengths.
Nelson Cruz next. Looking at ball one. Cruz 4 for 8 in this series with a couple of runs batted in. Astros play him to pull. It's a 1-ball-1-strike count. Altuve shading up the middle. Cedeno swung around at shortstop, as you see there.
After the near perfect game by Yu Darvish last night, of course, we have to talk a bit about that perfect game picked up by Humber a year ago. Again, April 21st. And the thing about Humber's perfect game in what was his second start of the season, just 96 pitches needed. So he was very tidy, despite striking out 9 in the game.
Foul ball there. That was early in the season, April 21st at Seattle.
And we've all seen that final out of the game so many times. Did he go? Didn't he? He probably didn't go, but with 2 strikes and you're number 27 in terms of outs on the night, you better be hacking.
There is now a plaque at Rice University at Reckling Park commemorating that game. There's a sharp single to the left of Cedeno into left center field. Maxwell over, and it's a hit for Cruz, the first for the Rangers. So they've placed that plaque right by Reckling Field now, and Phil Humber hopes to get out to Reckling Field and take a look at it later on this year. One of the terrific Rice pitchers who's been developed down through the years by Wayne Graham. And a first-round pick of the Mets. He was the 3rd player drafted. What a great moment for Phil and his teammates to hoist the championship trophy. He was 35-8 at Rice with a 2.80 ERA.
Decent numbers.
A.J. Pierzynski, how about your man last night? A.J. was in the spotlight again, Blummer. Almost caught his 3rd no-hitter and a perfect game for the 2nd time it would have been. And he's 1 for 7 at the plate.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting showing up the next day after almost catching a perfect game and facing the guy you did catch his perfect game the year before.
That might be a baseball first. You'd have to think it would be. He smacks a line drive into center field. Cruz will get to second and hold there. The Rangers want to be more aggressive on the bases this season than they were last year. No opportunity to do so there, and it's 1st and 2nd, 1 out.
I'm feeling a bit for Philip Humber right now. He has delivered a few very good-looking pitches on the monitor without calls. And I think sometimes what that does to a pitcher and catcher combination is force them to move closer toward the center of the plate. And that can be obviously very dangerous.
Rangers have big hopes for Mitch Moreland, who's batting now, looking for his first hit of the season. It's Moreland's job at first base this year. He is 0 for 7 with 1 RBI. Mitch, 27 years old, from Amory, Mississippi, and Mississippi State. He was signed after being drafted in the 17th round of 07 by the Rangers by Bill Wood's son, Jeff. Bill Wood, the former Astros general manager. And Jeff scouting for the Rangers. Remember when Jeff Wood used to go on some road trips with the Astros?
He would.
They strike one. There was one in particular to Montreal. Plummer, you may not have been on that one, but that was interesting because the players sort of took Jeff under their wing,
so to speak.
Yeah. Not always a good thing, but he survived it.
Yeah, as long as you survive, that's all you can do.
It's a 1-ball, 1-strike count.
Nothing like that protective mode with the players.
Yeah. Well, put yourself in the shoes of Phil Humber, if you will, guys. He's 30 years old. He's moved on to another team. He's pitched for the Mets, the Twins, the White Sox. He's been acquired a couple times on waivers. And it's a fresh start at age 30.
His off-speed stuff has hitters out in front consistently, whether the changeup or the off-speed breaking ball.
Yeah, breaking ball looks good. Good down action, but yeah, the way they're taking swings at it, there's got to be some deception in either the delivery or the way the ball's coming out of his hand.
Moreland hit .377 in spring training this year. He bounces this one foul, first base side by Dave Anderson.
Humber's not a guy who's going to come with a ton of fastballs. Smart enough to know that he needs the other pitches to get it done with, and the breaking ball, whether curve or slider, clearly dominates in terms of percentage.
But you got to have that good fastball that allows you to set up that breaking ball.
Swing and a miss there, and a strikeout. 2 outs. It's a pretty low percentage of fastballs, isn't it?
It is extremely, yeah. If you mix in both curveball and slider, he throws a great deal of them.
Good technique, Ash, on that by Castro.
One of the best things that I can recommend for a catcher to do is to get the glove down on the ground. Once you do, it rolls the body over, and it softens things up. The ball tends to stay close out in front. Brad Ausmus had a very unusual style to one knee, but he became very soft, and he kept balls right in front.
Strike to Leonis Martin. 0 for 3 as the opening day center fielder against Bud Norris Sunday night. Who's the best you've ever seen at blocking low pitches? Mike Matheny?
Mike Matheny is number one. Funny you should go there, but current manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, he would work at it in between innings. Every pitch that was in the dirt, I never saw the guy fail to go to his knees, both knees, glove on the ground, head down, and block the ball right out in front.
Another play by Castro. Hey, Castro's really improved, though, this year, Ash, and I think a lot of it has to do with his knee being sound again.
That's the big thing I heard early on in spring training is 1 year ago, he had a tough time getting down. Now, he's a little bit late right here, but ultimately does get in front and keeps the ball right there with him. Some guys you'll see get really stiff, and when they do, the ball's bouncing 30 feet down either sideline, and it just becomes difficult. And again, reflecting back to Brad Ausmus, though he had an unusual style, the ball stayed so close to home plate.
And that's what makes it hard for the base runner to read the ball and advance on those balls in the dirt. You're taught to see the ball down, but when that ball's down and you try to get a jump and the ball's a foot away from the catcher, he has enough time to pick it up and fire you out.
Very good point. You know, with a lot of guys, that ball comes caroming out maybe 30 feet up the line, and they just failed to block it close to them.
You watch a lot of catchers also, you see the head, the chin kind of flying one direction or another. You're just exposing yourself to injury. If, again, you put the glove down on the ground, the head tends to come with it. Try it at home. And once you have that head start to drop down, everything rolls forward and it softens the blow.
Can I try it at home tonight?
Please do.
Hit by the pitch. Martin will limp his way up the first base line. Bases loaded for Kinsler now.
Well, that's the guy you wanted. You wanted the 9-hitter, a guy that's unproven at this point, but you try to bite this curve down and get a swing and dive it right into the foot.
You know, a lot of times we hear pitchers talk about the back foot breaking ball. This is a front foot. That's not what you're looking for as a pitcher.
Try to get on top of that breaking ball, and if you pull it just a little bit, it winds up in that area.
Bases loaded for Kinsler, who opened the game by striking out. So when we practice this at home tonight, Ash, should we do it one of those really soft little souvenir balls? Or
you can use anything you choose. I've seen Diane work at this with you, and she's very proficient.
Strike one.
Got to be careful the surface you're practicing this on too, don't you?
Yeah, very
you're
much
risking, knee abrasions.
But you're preparing yourself for any eventuality.
Can we put on the gear?
I think taking the gear home's a good idea.
1 ball, 1 strike. I think Blummer should take advantage of the off day by coming out, working out for about a half an hour.
Well, I know he's coming out for a little hitting work, and now he can show us if he's a real man if he gets behind the dish.
No chance. That was one thing I did not want to do. My younger brother was the catcher, and there's no way I was going to get back there.
Fly ball right field over toward the line. Rick Ankiel back in the corner. And the Rangers leave 3 on base in the second inning with no runs, 2 hits. It is scoreless. It's scoreless after 1.5. Bottom of the second inning coming. Rangers fans have come down to join with Astros fans in watching the season opening series. The next series between these two clubs will be again right here. That'll be in May. Jason Castro is 0 for 7 to open the season. He was the catcher Sunday night. He was the DH last night. And strike 1. So that DH does give Bo Porter a chance to use his players in different ways. Stacked his lineup with left-handed hitters last night against Yu Darvish. Every left-handed hitter available to him was in that starting lineup. And that's a thought too against this pitcher, who is much tougher on right-handed batters. But Altuve opened the game with a sharp double. Castro fouls it away. He really had a solid spring, Ash. He was hitting for power, hit 6 home runs to lead the club, and he just looks like the player the Astros thought they were getting when they made him a first-round pick.
When you're having that kind of spring, you're thinking, okay, well, this is good, but I'd sure like to save a little bit of this for opening day. And then you take that over as you start the season, and it starts to really build on you.
Kinsler, 1 out. Justin Maxwell had quite a night Sunday night with a pair of triples.
Big swing right there, and he just gets under it, but still comes up with a huge hit that got the Astros on top in that game. He wound up with 2 triples. His first 3-bagger a year ago, I believe, was July 28th. He wound up with 3 on the season. But with his speed and the way he can drive the baseball, he's going to hit a lot.
Yeah, especially in this ballpark, using both sides of the field. Get that speed out in some open space and let him run a little bit.
Might want to jump on that first pitch fastball that's up a bit in the strike zone.
2 for 6 to open the season for J-Max. That one's out of play. Well, Maxwell with the 2 triples opening night set a tone, and then the Rangers had 3 triples in last night's game. That's pretty unusual to have 5 triples in back-to-back Major League games. But this ballpark can yield its share of those. A lot of room, especially out to center field and right center field in this park.
Yeah, those balls get out in those gaps, and you start getting some crazy angles out there, some ricochets like we saw off the scoreboard in left field. And the way the bullpen is shaped, it kind of funnels everything towards center field when it bounces off that wall. So, yeah, there's plenty of room to run when that ball gets out there.
Now that part of the park can create a problem for the left fielder, and that's why David Murphy is over there where that wall juts back.
I would think when it's all said and done, that angle back in that corner is probably the toughest part of this yard.
Yeah. Struck him out. Strikeout number 3.
Don't miss your chance to see the Astros take on some of the best teams in the American League, including the Red Sox, Yankees, Rangers, and more. Get your tickets right now by calling 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit Astros.com.
The Oakland A's are in town this weekend for night games Friday and Saturday and a day game Sunday, and then we're hitting the road to Seattle and a couple of other cities. Rick Ankiel with strike 1 is 1 for 5, and that one hit the big pinch 3-run homer on Sunday night.
Astros are really showing that propensity for that free swinging lifestyle that they're with 3 of the first 5 outs of the game already on punch outs. We had 28 in the first 2 games, so that youth is showing a little bit in their aggressive approach at the plate, but you want to be aggressive in the zone.
Talking about punch outs, 15 of them last night, 14 by Yu Darvish, and only 1 out recorded on a ball in the air against Darvish last night.
It's pretty
ball
incredible.
Hit to the outfield, I should say.
Here's the big swing Sunday night for Rick as he came up in a pinch hit roll with a 4-2 lead.
That's just finding that breaking ball, and with a couple of strikes, making sure you wait with your hands, gets enough to drive it out to right field. And what a special moment for a guy that's been around the game.
That was his 5th career pinch homer. He lays off that pitch up, and it's 2-2. Rick also had a very good spring. That day off will not go too well if some of these guys who don't have a hit don't come up with one today. Hitless for the first 3 games if you played all 3. It's not what anybody had in mind, but again, a tough pitcher is working for the Rangers today. That's strikeout number 4 for Ogando, and it's scoreless after 2.
Of the third, we want to remind you to tune in into Chevy Hometown Kids every Saturday morning at 9:30 on CSN. Chevy Hometown Kids, where it's not about the score but the experience. Philip Humber on the mound and has quite the crowd here today. As y'all mentioned, he's a Texas boy. He's actually from Carthage, Texas, a small East town, and a small East Texas town where he led the Bulldogs to a state championship game in 2001. He also has a lot of Rice friends here, as he was the winning pitcher in the 2003 College World Series Championship. Also, he wasn't a Rangers fan. He said he was a Cowboys fan since the Rangers weren't contenders back then when he was growing up. He also said there's a lot of bandwagon Rangers fans coming out of the woodwork when Texas became a World Series team, guys.
Happens with every team. That was strike one to Elvis Andrews. Smacks a line drive. Maxwell cruising over. 1 out. Andrews lined to shortstop earlier, so he hasn't found any place for his hits to land in this game after signing that 8-year, $120 million contract extension. And Kinsler is on a 5-year deal. Their top prospect, Jurickson Profar, is playing shortstop at Round Rock. What gives here for the future, Blummer, with his club? Any idea?
That's a really good question. I know there's always reports of Ian Kinsler moving to first base, even a report of maybe possibly moving to the outfield. But, you know, it's a great thing for the Rangers organization to have that kind of depth up the middle.
It really is. Berkman grounds sharply to Cedeno. Well, he walked on 4 pitches in the first. This time, Humber gets him on 1 pitch.
Maybe trying to ambush right there, knowing he walked earlier in the game, trying to get that first pitch fastball, but Humber threw a great sinker away, hit it right at Ronnie Cedeno.
Adrian Beltre bounced into a force.
About 15 pitches per inning is kind of that nice range for any given pitcher. And that pitch we just saw, number 39 now from Philip Humber, so he's on a very nice pace early.
Well, Jeff, Doug Brocail has to be pretty pleased with what he's seen from his starting rotation so far.
I agree. He's done a great job. He talked about it in spring, you know, being economical with these pitches. Lucas Harrell found himself in a unique situation yesterday where he had to pitch out of a big jam, but did a great job and still extended his game getting into the 6th inning. But they're going to need that. Like we talked about yesterday about, you know, the questions in the bullpen. How are we going to use guys? What situations are these guys going to be in? And we don't want to burn these guys out. So it's on the starting staff to get deep in these ball games to allow the bullpen to stay rested and healthy and be able to be used when necessary.
2-2 to Beltre. Humber spent about a month on the disabled list with the right elbow flexor strain last year.
Seems to be a typical injury for a guy who throws a lot of off-speed pitches, mostly breaking balls and sliders. Puts a lot of torque on the elbow.
Still 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Wonder how much the perfect game early on played into that, and how much Yu Darvish might be affected by that first outing on the year and needing so many pitches.
Really good question. He's due up Sunday night now at home against the Angels next.
Yeah, we speculated last night that maybe the Rangers would be in a position where they could back Darvish off maybe even a complete start or just a couple of days, but apparently they want to be able to get him out there and face the Angels. I think they sense already that the Angels are going to be a very tough club to deal with.
They'll open that series Friday night at home against the Angels. Derek Holland going for the Rangers against Jason Vargas, one of the Angels acquisitions over the winter coming from Seattle. Fly ball heads for Rick Ankiel in right. It's a 10-pitch 3rd inning for Phil Humber, and he keeps the game scoreless. Glad you're with us today. Rangers and Astros here on CSN Houston. Heading for the last of the third. Bill Brown, Alan Ashby, Jeff Blum. We'll all be together throughout the next road trip, starting in Seattle next week. Blummer, what are we going to do up there? Drink coffee?
Plenty of coffee. There's some good wines up there, too.
Okay.
Good restaurants.
And some baseball mixed in. Matt Dominguez is 1 for 3 with an RBI as he starts out 2013 after getting some productive playing time in last year. This is the real year, though, for Matt to settle in at third base. Strike one. Brett Wallace played that position last night, and he'll get some starts there as well.
I think a lot of guys that try to make it as whatever the position may be, but third base is one where you need some pop, and you have to play solid defense. You can't kill your ball club. Matt Dominguez has what looks to be terrific defensive tools, and then he has shown that he can drive the home run against anybody for that matter. But can it all come together now as he gets a chance to play every day?
And I think that's the biggest thing, is getting a chance to play every day. Gondo with a steady diet of breaking balls against these Astro hitters, man.
John Maley certainly taking note. And it's 3 balls, 2 strikes. The White Sox have Jake Peavy on the mound today at home against Kansas City. 1-0 Chicago on a second inning homer by Adam Dunn. Urban Santana going for the Royals today. That was an interesting offseason for them. In the air and on the right side of the infield, it's Moreland. The Royals decided to go for it, so to speak. They traded their top prospect, Will Myers, to Tampa Bay. They got James Shields, Wade Davis. They brought in Santana. So it'll be interesting when we see them this year, Joe.
It will be interesting. And, you know, they did a similar process, you know, bulking up that farm system to allow them to make those big trades, similar to what the Houston Astros are trying to do here, is really bulk up that farm system so in the upcoming years they can make a push. But Kansas City felt the time is now and made a big trade, sending Will Myers down to Tampa Bay for James Shields.
Ronnie Cedeno takes a strike. Cedeno's 1 for 3. Cubs are playing tonight in Pittsburgh. They'll have Edwin Jackson against Wandy Rodriguez. Jeff Samardzija pitched well for Chicago opening day. There's some high heat, and it's 0-2.
Yeah, Alexi can be firm to quite firm, and that was extremely firm right there.
Right-handed hitters for his career have hit 195 against him.
Well, you can see why. He can blow, number one, and then he's got the breaking balls to go with it. Big and tall, creates some angles.
Listed at 6'4". He's from the Dominican. Spent 5 years as an outfielder. There's a liner by Lungin Kinsler. A well-hit ball by Cedeno on that 1-2 pitch, and that's hit number 2 for the Astros.
Yeah, that was a nice piece of hitting right there. That was a pretty good slider on the outer half. Got those hands back and didn't lose them. Was able to drive it up the middle. He hit that ball pretty well.
Yeah, I think anytime you're trying to put a team together, you're going to have a lot of question marks. Can Ronnie Cedeno, who's known as an outstanding defensive shortstop, provide enough offense to make things work?
Yeesh.
Alexi Ogando thinks so right about now.
I bet he does.
Yeah, there was some talk in spring training about pitchers wearing helmets. They talked to Brandon McCarthy about it. He didn't sound like he wanted any part of wearing a helmet while he was on the mound, even after being hit in the head last year.
Jose Altuve looks at ball 1.
How much of that is the manly thing?
Probably quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the nature of the business. Some of the hazards that are involved with standing, by the time you release the ball, 55 feet away from a professional hitter.
Slicing ball at the right field line goes foul.
There was a time when major league hitters didn't have to wear helmets. It's amazing. It didn't work out well for some of those guys, unfortunately, and it was the wise thing to make sure that eventually helmets were worn and then onto the flap, that ear flap. But I don't know, at some point, do you stop doing the macho thing on the mound and just simply deciding, look, we need to protect our guys a little bit?
Yeah, it's an evolution thing, and with the way ball players are built these days, you would think being 55 feet away, even though it's a wood bat, the chances of getting hit are really slim, but the rate of speed of the ball off the bat is pretty impressive and can lead to some dangerous situations.
Yeah, in terms of really slim, if there is that line drive right back in the head region, the chances are quite slim that you'll get glove on it.
1-2. You saw Dave Tremblay giving signs from third base coaching box.
And you see the base coaches wearing helmets these days, and they're standing further away than the pitcher does.
Yes.
There's a manly man for you.
Altuve lunging at the breaking pitch, strikes out. That's 5 strikeouts.
Yeah, my question as I look at this picture is, which one of these guys was the National League All-Star a year ago?
Is that J.J. Watt's kid?
It's only a foot difference between the two. 122 pounds. Not much difference between those guys at all.
I think that's the beauty of baseball, is that it opens itself to being any body type, any size, any shape, and going out there and being able to be an all-star, as opposed to football where you got to have some serious girth and strength to you to go out there and compete.
I wonder what J.J. Watt was thinking as he was kind of cuddling Jose Altuve at that moment.
Wallace looks at ball 1.
By the way, that strikeout of Jose Altuve, the 5th of the game, 33rd already on the season of Astros hitters. We are in the 3rd inning of game 3.
So you're saying there's a chance? Plenty of season left.
There is a lot of season. There's no question about it. Is it a factor of young hitters? Is it maybe being under aggressive or over aggressive? I think it's debatable all the way.
It is debatable because of the guys that you are seeing strike out. There are young guys that are going up there and maybe flailing at some pitches out of the zone, but Jose Altuve is a great hitter, an all-star hitter, and he's punching out on some pretty good pitches. And then you've got the older guys like Carlos Pena, Rick Ankiel that are, you know, having some tough ABs early on against these Rangers pitchers.
Of course, with those possibilities, I left out the possibility that you're facing some very good pitching at the start of the season.
Right.
And you got to give credit where credit is due. These guys are good, and they are making their pitches.
Strike makes it 3-1. Yep. Front end of the rotation.
Need a little help from strike zone sometimes too.
We've got a balk call. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not sure where it took place on this delivery to the plate.
Maybe a little quick to the plate. No stop.
No stop would be the logical.
Take a look at it. That's the only thing it could have been.
Yeah, you get that little kind of bounce at the waistband, but I would probably guess that he's done that numerous times on the afternoon.
Wallace takes ball 4. And the Astros have something working here with 2 outs and Carlos Pena coming up. First walk for Ogando. It's 0-0. We're in the last of the 3rd inning. The Rangers and Astros playing the rubber game of this 3-game series at Minute Maid Park in Houston. Bill Brown, Jeff Plum, Alan Ashby, Julia Morales. Anybody else here that you know of, Jeff?
Nobody that I know of, but we could always open to more people floating around and helping us out.
We've got Orbit over here to our right.
Orbit, so we've got Gene Duffy, we've got Carl Patterson. We can go on and on with this list of folks. Carlos Pena struck out on some high heat back in the 1st inning with a runner at 3rd and 1 out. Now he gets another opportunity with men in scoring position.
And the Astros have been pretty good with guys on base this year. 7 for 15 already early in the season, so it's nice to have some guys on base.
Ball 1 to Pena with Kinsler out in right field again.
Of course, it's also a ball club that's played 2 games. One of them they got dominated by Darvish. The other one they scored 7 runs in a game that was pitched by Matt Harrison and a guy that's very tough, legitimate for an opening day starter.
Rangers have Colby Lewis on the shelf for a few months to open the season. Their 5th starter is in the minor leagues. They won't use a 5th starter for a while now with off days. They'll just use 4, and then they'll wind up calling up Nick Tepish. That's the plan, to be their 5th starter. Now here comes Ron Washington. So there may be some concern here about Ogando. Physically, maybe. There was a balk call. Not sure what this visit is about.
Ogando 1 year ago, in that one start that he had on the season of 58 outings, pitched just coincidentally 3 innings.
But I think Brownie hit on a good point. That balk maybe threw him a little bit out of rhythm, and Ron Washington, having experience with Alexi, probably recognized the fact and made a trip out there to kind of settle him down. Because after that balk, he walked Brett Wallace and now is falling behind 2-0, which is a good spot for Carlos Pena to be in. Hopefully he gets a fastball in the zone. But the way Ogando's been throwing his slider, you know, he very well could drop one in there right now, too.
Chris Carter's on deck.
I wonder if Ron Washington was talking about maybe some of the issues he sees with his right-hander, or was he talking about a guy who has led the American League a few years back in home runs and what he might be looking for in a 2-0 scenario.
Kinsler will come in from right field and throw, and just barely nip Pena at first. He had a long way to come on that slow roller, and Bo Porter's going right out to talk to Chris Conroy, who made the out call at first. It's going to be no runs a hit, 2 men left, and after 3, no score.
Getting set here for the 5, 6, and 7 hitters. This replay shows that umpires do sometimes get it right. It's close, but as Pena digs down the line, obviously not quite able to get there. A play that looked very close to the naked eye.
Yeah, that shift makes it tough for that right fielder / second baseman. It has to come charge again on a slow hit ground ball like that.
David Murphy looked at ball 1 in this scoreless game. Now Philip Humber makes it a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Humber had Tommy John surgery. He missed the 04 season. Picked up on the short hop. There's the play by Wallace at first. It's out number 1. Join Kevin Eschenfelder on Sports Talk Live as we wrangle up some noteworthy sports guests that have plenty of buzzworthy opinions and play-by-play analysis. You never know who will stop by on Sports Talk Live weekdays at 5. We need something buzzworthy in this game, guys. 0-0, 1 out in the 4th inning, and it's Cruz coming up next. He singled to left center early.
Well, starting pitching for the Astros has been buzzworthy now into their 3rd game of the season. Bud Norris, Lucas Harrell, Philip Humber, guys who all pitched well over the course of the spring and doing a heck of a job.
Brad Peacock up Friday night for his first Astros start against his former club, the Oakland A's, and right-hander Dan Straley. That'll be a 7:10 start. We're on the air at 6:30 with Astros Live Friday night. Saturday night, a 6:10 start for Eric Bedard and Bartolo Colon. Sunday at 1:10, it's Bud Norris and Brett Anderson. Bartolo Colon serving a 5-game suspension to open this season. And the Oakland A's were indeed the surprise team in the American League last year.
There are some knowledgeable people in baseball that think the Oakland A's and their fine young pitching staff once again are going to be a tough team. There are some who think they have a chance to drop off as much as any other club from what they did a year ago.
Humber has thrown 11 of 15 first pitch strikes. He's ahead in the count here, 1-2 on Cruz. Fly ball center, Maxwell. 2 down. A.J. Pierzynski coming up, and Julia has more on him.
Well, guys, he wasn't really wanting to talk about last night's almost perfect game, but I asked him anyway. He was very disappointed, as you can possibly imagine. And as someone who's caught a perfect game and a no-hitter, he knows a little something about it. He said there was nothing to make him think that it wasn't going to happen. He also gave the Astros credit. They started swinging on the first pitch a lot more as the game went on, and gave even more credit to, of course, Marwin for not getting caught up in the moment and breaking it up.
A.J. single to center field in the second inning. All the way, and there's strike one. Just wondering too, in the previous inning when Ron Washington visited Ogando, AJ is still learning these pitchers now as a first-year member of the Rangers, and Wash knows his pitcher a lot better than Pierzynski at this point. 1-1. So sometimes the manager can save a visit to the mound because his catcher will take care of it for him.
Especially when you have that veteran catcher. Pierzynski probably is opinionated, and rightly so, as any backstop in the league.
And will roll by, sliding Altuve into right field, and Pierzynski is on with a 2-out single to give him a 2-for-2 game.
Don't always have to crush it, and sometimes it's deserving of a little wry smile down at first base.
Location, location, location.
That's a real estate single.
It's a good pitch up and in, just pulled his hands in and managed to fight it off. Past Altuve, was playing him probably a little more straight up than he normally would on a left-handed hitter.
Did that bat live to fight another day?
If not, it died a hero.
Yep.
It's a board for Mitch Moreland. Pierzynski, old school, starting all 3 games, including a day game after a night game of this series.
Be curious to see how that works out throughout the course of the season. I know that summers can get a little moist and hot in Chicago, but playing Fort Worth is going to be a whole different animal for him to handle.
You bet it is. That is some kind of test in the heat in that ballpark. It's a 1-ball, 1-strike count to Moreland.
Yeah, they try to protect the players a bit by playing mostly night games, but in the summer in Texas, you know, the evening is not necessarily a pleasant time of the day.
Yeah, humidity knows no shade, so there's no relief from that stuff.
Astros go there in July for the first time. Maxwell in, and so is Ankiel. J-Max underneath it. To end the Rangers' 4th with no runs a hit and a man stranded, and still no score.
Bottom of the fourth inning. Carter, Castro, and Maxwell coming up for the Astros. An Astros club that over the course of the spring was swinging the long ball sticks. And you can see even going the other way a bit. Ankiel hits the first. This is Castro, and he was swinging a big home run bat over the course of the spring. And then, of course, this guy, Chris Carter, he showed that he can hit it out to any part of any ballpark. That's really what the Astros did, maybe as well as anything as a club over the spring.
And that's a good thing. I mean, if you're going to be punching out as much as we are, it's nice to have that lightning bolt in that bat when you need it. And up and down this lineup, these guys did a good job of showing that they can drive that ball out of the ballpark.
Carter struck out earlier.
New York Yankees led the major leagues by a wide margin in home runs a year ago, and it pays off. I mean, you don't always have to get 3 singles in an inning to pick up runs if you can swing that long ball bat.
Quick strike capability can be really helpful.
Come on, Carter, get it started.
Gando missing outside. It's 1 ball, 2 strikes. Alexei last year struck out 66 in 66 innings. He gets another punch out. That's number 6.
Well, that was pretty filthy right there after the big fastballs from Ogando. Then come with that, I don't know what that was. It broke so much downward that I wonder if this is splitter action. You see the catcher, Przinsky, actually having to go to the backhand side. This ball breaking in and down toward Carter.
Yeah, said in spring that he was going to work on his slider and changeup. I don't know if that was too much of a changeup because that thing did look like a filthy splitter that was tumbling down and in.
All right.
Jason Castro grounds. He and Kinsler is there. His changeup is a hard changeup. It's around 88 miles per hour usually.
Never bothered me. I've heard some people say, well, it needs to be 10 miles an hour off to be effective. I caught Nolan Ryan and other guys' changeups and off of the fastball. Sometimes it was just enough to leave a hitter flinching and unable to make any kind of adjustment.
Well, that's the thing. You hit the 95 mile an hour or say it's 92, and hitting it off the barrel of the bat, that 3-4 mile an hour change is going to change it to off the end of the bat. Can't do much damage at that end of the bat.
Well, how many pitchers through the years do you hear talk about guys that are effective saying they just choke off a fastball sometimes to take 2, 3, 4 miles an hour off to get hitters out in front, and that's all they're looking for is contact, a weak ground ball.
And sometimes it even increases the movement on a pitch too, like we saw last night with the multiple different sliders that Darvish was throwing out there. He had the hard one that was cutting across. He had a little bit bigger one, and then he had that nasty curveball that he really took something off and it bit straight down.
You know, I think the only game that I've ever been at, witnessed, that I saw that type of stuff where hitters legitimately had no chance was Kerry Wood's start way back, I believe his 2nd or 3rd big league start in Chicago, and it was unbelievable. Hitters after the game were just comparing notes, laughing about how, well, you had no chance. Well, yeah, what about your at bat in the 5th? And, you know, one of those kind of conversations, it had gone beyond embarrassing getting no hit, but it had turned comical because it was so rough on the hitters.
Yeah, you watch replays of that game, and it looked like he was throwing a wiffle ball up there.
Maxwell's down on strikes. That's 7 punch outs through 4 for Ogando. He and Humber in a scoreless duel after 4. Inside Minute Maid Park, it's no score. We go to the 5th inning. It'll be Leonis Martin, native of Cuba, leading it off. 25 years old, and he signed to a 5-year, $15.5 million contract in 2011 to join this Ranger organization. They've been aggressive in the international signings. He'll lead it off here, and as a speedy number 9 hitter, that gives him an opportunity to get on for Kinsler. So that's power next. He tries to bunt his way on and misses for strike 1.
Watching Philip Humber, he's been successful through the first 4 innings, but he's also left a number of fastballs up through the strike zone. Maybe fortunate to get by with those pitches.
Dominguez in on the grass. Foul ball makes it no balls, 2 strikes.
But it seems like every time he does make that pitch up in the zone, he comes back and makes the adjustment and gets on top and works the ball back down in the zone.
All right, backs up with 2 strikes. Bounce to the right side, and Wallace has a 2-hopper. 1 out. Take a look at Kinsler versus Humber.
A look at that last at bat. Well, that is the last at bat through our pitch by pitch presented by Steel Dealers. And see a couple of breaking balls. Philip Humber has been using the breaking ball a good deal. But here's the fastball to finally get that out on the fly ball to right field. If you change speeds like that, keep the hitters off balance, you can get by with some fastballs that are through the heart of the plate.
Kinsler with the fly ball with the bases loaded to keep the game scoreless. That was in the 2nd inning. He's 0 for 2. Strike 1 for Humber.
Humber's been around the plate enough now this afternoon that he's starting to get some calls at the bottom of the knees and on the edges.
Andy Fletcher's the home plate umpire. Little roller up the line. Humber with an underhand toss to Wallace. 2 outs.
Can't begin to tell you how much I enjoy seeing pitchers use the glove on this routine play that some pitchers will come on, try to barehand frantically, and eventually drop the baseball.
And MLB.com at bat is the #1 source for live baseball everywhere you go. Available for iPhone, iPad, Android, and BlackBerry 10. Follow the Astros with live audio, stats, highlights, and much more. Text at bat to 31826 or visit Astros.com for details.
No score here. 3 hits for the Rangers, 2 hits for the Astros. And the Astros have the only extra base hit, and Altuve 1st inning double. Humber pounds it for strike 1 on Andrews, who's lined out twice, once to short, once to center. The tough beginning stretch of the schedule for the Astros here at home with the Rangers and the Oakland A's back to back. Top 2 teams in the American League West last year, and then they go to Seattle, which is rated by many an improved club this year. And they'll be moving on to Anaheim as well as Oakland on the next road trip. And the Angels appear to many to be really stacked, and they're getting a lot of favorite votes in this AL West division this year.
That Seattle club picked up some power in the offseason. Michael Morse, a couple of home runs in yesterday's game. 1 to right field, opposite field, 1 to straightaway center.
Yeah, he's definitely figured it out over the last couple of years. He was in Seattle, I think, to start his career at shortstop. Known more for his defense. Reasonable hitter, had pop, just couldn't square it up. In the last couple of years, he's done a great job of driving the ball out of the ballpark.
Andrews gets underneath it. Ronnie Cedeno with the catch on a 10-pitch 5th inning, and it's still no score. Home Run Alley, sponsored by Phillips 66. That's all been redone out in that area of the ballpark in left center field, that walkway. And the entire ballpark has been redone in the new branding colors. Rick Ankiel comes up in the home fifth and takes a look at strike one. He struck out in the second inning on a 2-2 count. Only 2 hits for the Astros and 1 walk for Alexi Ogando through 4. No balls, 2 strikes. When he was last a starting pitcher on a regular basis in 2011, he was 13-8. He started 7-0 that year. And he was 9-3 at the All-Star break, but then he hit a wall in the second half of the season. He was overloaded on innings and wound up working in relief a little bit. Gets a strikeout here. So the talk is that they'll watch his innings more carefully this time around.
Pretty good looking hammer over the top with this curveball that strikes out Rick Ankiel.
Yeah, that was a tough AB right there. Those back-to-back changeups to get him 0-2 and then just drop the hammer on him and left Ankiel thinking about what just happened.
And Dominguez popped to first after he worked the count full in the 3rd inning. 61 pitches for Ogando. And that's strike 1. Cedeno on deck.
Another first pitch strike. So important for some of these pitchers to allow them to open up the playbook a little bit and start messing around, throwing whatever they want. If they can get ahead early, then they can start toying with these guys.
It's 1-1. Well, there have been all these stories written about the Astros move to the American League now. What's that going to mean for the clubs in the AL West? What's that going to mean for their old division, the NL Central? There's the breakdown on Ogando. Bouncer shortstop, Andrews. And over to first, Nolan over to the side to make that catch for out number 2. So, what do you guys think the ramifications will be? First of all, there's a huge learning curve for the Astros, but also the other teams in the AL West playing the Astros, and all these other AL West clubs trained in Arizona, so there was no opportunity to do any kind of head-to-head scouting.
Yeah, you're kind of going into it blind a little bit, but you put a ball club like the Houston Astros in the situation they are, where they're trying to regroup a little bit, reorganize, and you put them into an AL West who's had some dominant teams already come out of it in the last couple of years. You're getting thrown right to the wolves immediately, so the learning curve is going to be pretty significant over the next couple months.
Yeah, and my opinion is that the Wolves don't often care what their prey looks like, if they've met them before or not. And so it is. It's going to be tough. These are good ball clubs, but it's pretty tough ball clubs throughout. And I think you can say that around the major leagues. But I think when you're coming from the National League Central to the American League West, it's probably a step up in competition.
Yeah, as you can see from those win totals, averaging over 90 wins per club among the top 3 last year. That's quite a triumvirate. And Seattle has taken those steps that we talked about earlier. They have Kendrys Morales now, the DH. They've added some power. They brought in the fences there. 2-2. So it's a totally different kind of feel for all of us, for Astros fans, for players. New manager, a lot of new coaches, new division, new opponents. It's going to be really interesting this year.
I can tell you it's a great atmosphere in Anaheim. Angels have a great fan base, and they draw extremely well. The other clubs, not quite as much. That ballpark in Seattle is among the prettiest.
That's a check swing call. It's a full count. You know, we kind of think of you as Uncle Allen this year. Uncle Allen, take us on a tour of the American League, Uncle Allen.
Well, feel free. I've spent some time here in recent seasons doing the scouting, getting the groundwork done. And so lean on me if you need.
We should have Uncle Allen's travelogue of all the cities.
I like that. That's a good idea.
Well, that's strikeout number 8. Ogando with a career high 9 strikeouts, and this is number 8 as you look at the Astros home run leaders on Home Run Alley, brought to you by Phillips 66. where they're out in the patio enjoying a nice lunch and a scoreless ball game. Top of the 6th inning, and this ballpark playing a lot tougher as far as runs than the ballpark in Arlington. Rangers ballpark in Arlington, there, one of the top offensive parks in the majors. But today it's Ogando and Humber with shutout ball through 5, and it's Berkman, Beltre, and Murphy in the 6th. Berkman has walked on 4 pitches and grounded out on 1 pitch. That's ball 1 to Lance. One of the best Astros of all time, and a real fan favorite. He's been drawing some boos during this series.
It's got to be tough to boo Lance.
Rivalry's on, huh?
Yes. Spice it up a little bit.
The Astros talked to Lance about playing for them this year. He was a big part, of course, of that 05 championship season.
I think that was a tough call for both of the ball clubs involved there. Maybe there were others, but Lance didn't have much of a year last year, battling knee injuries.
Another 4-pitch walk.
But when he's healthy, the tendency for Lance Berkman with a bat in his hands is to do some serious raking.
And he's going to have a chance to do that in this lineup. They're allowing him to DH, so it'll eliminate the extra wear and tear by running onto that field and having to play defense.
.409 on base percentage, 4th among active players. He's aboard for Beltre, who's 0 for 2.
Heard an amazing stat a few nights ago. I believe it was during the opener on Lance Berkman, that he is among switch hitters all time the 2nd highest OPS, trailing only Mickey Mantle. That leaves some pretty good switch hitters that he's above in that category.
Bet.
Yeah, with all the attention that Chipper Jones got last year with his announced retirement and eventual retirement, everybody took a look at his numbers. But if you stretch those numbers out, Lance is going to be top 2 or 3 in that group.
Hall of Famer Eddie Murray on that list.
Yeah.
Of course, Pete Rose, one of the great switch hitters of all time, not the power hitting guy.
One ball, 1 strike. Yeah, back in that era, it seemed maybe the 70s and 80s, a lot of the switch hitters were more speed merchants, the Willie Wilsons of the world. Pete Rose, you mentioned, Ozzie Smith, a lot of guys became switch hitters because they wanted to make use of their speed. They wanted to have them bat left-handed because they had that speed. So just make contact, try to beat out infield hits, that kind of thing.
Adrian Beltre may not be featuring speed at the moment after taking that one off the ankle.
1 and 2.
Boy, that off-speed pitch, very effective. You can't really get the feeling that a hitter does. You're, as a hitter, always aware of fastball speed, but then you see fastball arm speed and get something otherwise with the baseball, and it's so difficult.
Ground ball, and that's foul. 75th pitch for Philip Humber. So he's been pretty economical so far.
Get one of these games where both pitchers are dealing and the offenses seemingly having very little chance. A lot of times they get decided by one swing, a ball that just gets over the corner of the bag, possibly.
I'm sure that one caught a little more of the plate than Humber wanted to. See what he tries to do here, throw a better slider away or sneak that heater by him.
Sometimes when you try to throw that better slider is when you slip, just have it launch on you a little bit and it stays through the heart of the plate.
Castro set up inside there, and that pitch a foul ball that keeps the count 1 and 2.
Watching Philip Humber and his delivery to the plate from the stretch, he's not overly quick. Of course, now with Lance Berkman at first base, you're probably not concerned in that direction, but you wonder at some point, does Humber have to try to speed things up to stay away from that running game?
Lance may have recognized that earlier in the game with that attempted steal. It was snuffed out, but it didn't end the way we had hoped.
Well, the Rangers, because they are missing the offense provided by Josh Hamilton, feel that they can utilize the running game a little bit better to make up some of that differential. Right side of the infield wide open for Beltre. He pulls it foul.
Beltre, not only a dangerous hitter, a guy that can take you deep at any moment, and a big RBI guy through the years, but he's tough. I mean, you just don't have the easy strikeout, even though he's that big power guy.
Yeah, he's got pretty good plate coverage, and he's seeing a bunch of pitches from Humber now.
Back to that comment on Humber and the running game potential against him. He allowed 15 bags and 16 tries against him a year ago. Over his career, 32 stolen bases, only 4 caught.
Now it's 2-2. Castro made a great throw to get a caught stealing on Sunday night. And his throwing is vastly improved over last year. This will be the 8th pitch to Beltre. And 78 pitches in the ball game for Humber. Beltre shoots one into center field. Berkman to second, and the Rangers have the first 2 men on here in a 6th inning threat.
Kind of a jam shot line drive, but it was hung left up and in maybe a little bit. Beltre ties himself up, but he's so good he can fight it into center field. Now you can see that pitch left up. Can't see the velocity there, but really just an off-speed pitch, and you'll tie yourself up as a hitter.
David Murphy hit .347 with runners in scoring position last year. That was the 7th best batting average in the American League. He's 0 for 2 in this game. Hit the ball well with that line out to center field his first time up. He is 0 for 7 lifetime against Humber. Dominguez in tight.
Yeah, interesting setup on the infield right now, having Brett Wallace even up on the grass. I don't think this is a particular bunt situation, even though there's nobody out, no runs scored. Runs are kind of tough to come by right now, but first and second, and I've got David Murphy at the plate. I'm going to let him swing away.
Wesley Wright is warming up for the Astros. Cedeno jockeying behind the runner Berkman. Now it's 1-1. Nelson Cruz on deck. Murphy was drafted in the first round by Boston in 03. Texas got him in a trade in 07.
In terms of that bunt possibility, 0 sacrifice bunts a year ago and 521 plate appearances. So the percentages are certainly not with that.
Line drive. Ankiel will pick it up on a hop and fire in toward the plate. It's the bases loaded, nobody out on the single by Murphy.
Great job by Rick Ankiel charging that ball, already knowing he's got a cannon out there. I'm sure Gary Pettis at third base was looking to have those hands up, but with the way Rick Ankiel charged that ball, it made his decision a lot easier.
Yes, as Ankiel came on, he looked like he was geared for the big throw, and I don't know if he was thinking in terms of throwing to second base for a force out, or is somebody foolish enough to try to run on him. That throw was just lobbing it in. When you get a chance to see this guy throw from right field, it is about as serious as it comes. Certainly as serious as I've ever seen.
He can really cut it loose. Now Brocale to the mound, bases loaded, nobody out. Cruz the batter. Cruz is 1 for 2. It did look like Ankiel might be thinking about a throw to second base.
He was charging. He was very earnest in some notion of throwing.
It's important to note too, if you see where the throw was, it was low. A lot of times these guys will let up or try and air it out depending on the situation, and they'll airmail it over that cutoff. Could lead to some runners advancing and things getting a little crazy out there, but he did a good job of keeping that ball down so Brett could cut it off and keep the runners where they're at.
Strike 1 to Cruz.
As we watch Ankiel with that throw in, and again, he didn't put anything on this one. Watch how he has to kind of throw back kind of away from his body, because I do think that he was considering a quick throw to second base.
Yep. That's the way it looked from that replay. Up the middle. Altuve steps on the bag, throws to first, and the Rangers take a 1-0 lead on a double play from 4-3. No RBI for Cruz. Berkman scoring.
That's a big 2 outs, obviously. But the question I would ask is, as the ball came right to Altuve on the bag at second base, did he have a chance after stepping on the bag of firing home and keeping that run off the boards? It's ideal for the double play. At that point, as he steps on the bag, not so sure that he didn't have a chance to come home.
Say Lance right now probably isn't the fleet of footest, but I know from playing with Lance, he's always had good breaks on the ball and ran the bases really well. So it's a tough throw.
Yeah.
It's not a normal throw for a second baseman to come up, grab that ball, step on a bag, and fire home. So I'm sure Altuve was thinking of making sure he got the sure outs in that inning right there.
Well, it's certainly not a play you ever work on, but it's a play where you kind of use instincts, and the instinct was to get the sure second out.
84 pitches for Phil Humber. He's coming out now.
Right now, does he have time to throw home?
It's tough, and that ball wasn't hit very well. It was broken bat up the middle, so it was kind of, there was a couple things going on right there.
It'll be Pierzynski, who's 2 for 2 against Humber, facing Wesley Wright when we come back. 1-0 Rangers.
Firestone Complete Auto Care Extra Mile Index. And as Wesley Wright comes in from the bullpen for the Astros, his second appearance on the season, you see that a year ago in the National League, he was among the leaders in appearances. So a guy that was just 3 back of Matt Belisle and Sean Camp, Randy Choate for that matter. That left-hander, you need to come in so many times against big left-hand hitters in key situations. Can he keep bringing it? And Wesley Wright's been able to do that.
It's good to have those guys. Even though the appearances are up, you know, the innings may not necessarily match that sometimes, or they may match it, but over the course of a season to get 77 appearances, you're durable and you're good.
He pitched last night in 2/3 of an inning. He allowed 1 hit, 2 runs. He got A.J. Pierzynski on a ground out. And there is ball 1 to Pierzynski on the check swing call by Paul Nauert. Wright came into the game and walked David Murphy, a left-handed batter. Then Cruz had the RBI double off him before he got Pierzynski, and then allowed a sac fly to Mitch Moreland, who's on deck next. Humber threw 84 pitches, 56 for strikes in his 5 2/3 innings. There's a line shot going foul. Josh Fields warming up for the Astros. It's 1 ball, 1 strike. Wesley Wright had a high ERA in spring training. There's Fields, who made his major league debut last night. But over the last 2 years, left-handed hitters have hit 170 against him. Two balls and a strike.
Wright came in last night and walked the left-hand batter that he started the inning with, and that's one of those situations you've got to, as that key left-hand guy coming out of the bullpen, you've got to get those left-handed hitters out.
Nice Astros debut for Phil Humber. 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits. He walked 2, fanned 2, hit a batter. So far he's been charged with 1 run. Fly ball, and Rick Ankiel is backing in right. One hit down toward the end of the bat, and it's out, number 3. 1 run scores on 2 hits with a runner stranded at third. In the middle of the 6th inning, the Rangers have broken the scoring ice. They lead at 1.
And it's a whole new ball game for the Houston Astros. And prorated season ticket packages and flexible mini packages are available now. To learn all about the exclusive benefits and pricing, call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com.
Alexio Gondo, who in the 09 season was in the Dominican Summer League, is now working with a 1-0 lead, going to the bottom of the 6th inning in his first start of 2013. Moving from last year's relief corps with 58 appearances back to the rotation with his 30th career start, facing Jose Altuve. And dealing strike 1. Altuve opened the Astros first with a double, advanced as far as third. He struck out in the 3rd inning. He got his award prior to the game from the Baseball Writers Association of America Houston chapter as the Astros MVP. Fly ball out to right center field. Martin back. And there's out number 1. So prior to the game, there's the award presentation for Jose Altuve, Astros MVP. And of course, Lucas Harrell got the award for Rookie of the Year. Jason Castro was the recipient of the Darryl Kyle Award. Pitcher of the Year went to Wilton Lopez, who's now with the Colorado Rockies. And Houston Area Player of the Year award went to Jay Bruce with Cincinnati now. Fred Wallace grounded out, and he walked his first 2 times. And then strike 1 to Wallace. Carlos Pena on deck. Altuve's been picking up some hardware from that fine, outstanding season as an all-star last year for the Astros. He's kind of become the face of the franchise in many ways. No balls, 2 strikes. It's 1-2.
Poor Brett Wallace has been hitting behind in the count, I think, every at bat in the last 2 days. He's having a rough start.
Yes.
Punching out 6 times out of the 8 or 9 at bats he's had already.
That one got his bat.
Check him.
Yep.
It would occur to me that the Texas Rangers feel that Brett Wallace is a fastball hitter right now because he is seeing a ton of breaking balls.
Steady diet.
Doesn't seem to have an answer for that pitch right now.
That last swing wasn't an answer for anything.
No.
Beats that one into the dirt.
Another off-speed pitch.
Yeah.
Sliders and changeups. Maybe waste a heater out of the zone and come back to it, but there's really no reason when the guy's not squaring up the off-speed pitches to deviate much from it.
The way scouting is these days, you see an entire series like this where Wallace may see nothing but breaking balls and off-speed, and it won't stop because the next teams coming in have their scouts. They're looking at it. They see the same thing.
And I wonder if, knowing that the Astros and a lot of their players are coming from that National League where it's a typical fastball league, first series in the American League, these guys are getting pumped a bunch of off-speed pitches.
Of course, we've seen some pretty alive fastballs from the Texas Rangers staff as well. There's the breaking ball.
Strikeout number 9, and Ogando ties his career high.
And until a hitter shows a pitching staff and the scouts that he can handle a given pitch at some point, just going to keep seeing it.
Game of adjustments. Who can make the quickest adjustment? Big chess game right now. We are getting checkmated on some of these pitches.
That's 10 strikeouts now for Ogando. Pena is 0 for 2, a strikeout and a ground out. So 38 strikeouts of Astros hitters. That was a ground ball in the hole, and here's the jump throw by Andres, and safe at first on the head first slide by Pena.
Can only imagine what he went over and said to Dave Clark right there. He's like, I've got to hustle down the line. I got to dive at first base to try and sneak out a hit, but he's on base and probably happy about it.
A lot of teams are very proud of their shifts they put on, and when that play works out that looks like it falls right into the shift, love to comment to it. But a lot of times also, and very seldom commented to, are those balls that go the other direction, and that's exactly what Pena does here as he gets the hit.
Bouncing off the bare hand and the knee of Moreland. And the Astros get hit number 3 of the game. Chris Carter batting next. He is 0 for 2 with 2 punch outs. A hit here could go a long way. One of those in the alley. They play him to hit to right center field, and it's ball 1.
Yeah, some 2-out lightning right here would be great for this ball club. Getting a great pitching performance from Humber and get the run support to back him up.
Looks at it. It's a 1-ball, 1-strike count to Chris. Obtaining the Jed Lowry trade. And Fernando Rodriguez, the other member of the Astros to go to Oakland, unfortunately out this year with Tommy John surgery now. You see Lowry in the Oakland uniform here this weekend and see how they plan to use him. From what we were reading this spring, he'll be a handyman on the infield, but he'll play a lot, because they do have a shortstop they signed from Japan. And they have big plans to play him.
And a look at some of those deals that Brownie's talking about. Jeff Luhnow has been a very busy general manager since taking over. See the big names traded away. Carlos Lee obviously among those. And guys acquired by trade: Dominguez, Carter, Peacock. Other significant signings: Carlos Pena down at first base among those.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Chris Carter, 26 years old, from Redwood City, California. Drafted by the White Sox in 05 in the 15th round. Then he moved to Arizona in a trade, Oakland in another deal. So he's been bouncing around and hoping to find a home here in Houston after the trade that brought him here in February.
Watching Chris Carter, much like Brett Wallace, seemingly having not much of an answer on the breaking pitches, and we saw what Yu Darvish did with breaking balls and good riding fastballs last night. You wonder, is this kind of epidemic on the ball club right now, just maybe not seeing enough breaking balls to be ready? That guy had a dandy.
Runner going, that ball line to Murphy, but he's positioned right there in left center for the catch. No runs, a hit, and a man left after 6, 1-0 Rangers. Seventh inning. The Astros' big and bright Friday nights are the perfect combination of baseball and family fun. Each Friday night game is followed by a spectacular fireworks show presented by Marathon Oil. This Friday, our first 10,000 fans will get a special T-shirt presented by Waste Management. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit Astros.com to get your tickets today. Our series begins with the Oakland A's coming in on Friday night and the debut of Brad Peacock. Here's Philip Humber's debut today.
Philip Humber pitched very well. He stands in a position not enviable where he could be in trouble on today's ball game, but he got nothing to be ashamed of. He utilized curveball, slider, changeups very well, spots some fastballs, and just simply, when it's all said and done, has hitters off balance.
Yeah, tough day to be a pitcher when you can go out and do what Phil Humber did, which is a great job in holding this Texas Rangers lineup down to 1 run through 5 2/3. And if things stay the way they are, he could end up with the loss.
Yeah. Go and sit next to Lucas Harrell now and commiserate a bit.
Lucas gave up 1 run in 6 last night and was the losing pitcher. Texas winning at 7-0. Now Wesley Wright stays in after getting Krasinski with 2 more left-handed batters coming up here in the 7th inning, Moreland and Martin. Moreland is 0 for 2. And Kinsler would be due up 3rd in the inning. And Josh Fields has been throwing in the Astros bullpen. Moreland, who used to pitch, takes strike 1. Rangers have won 15 of the last 19 from the Astros and 26 of the last 36. 1-1. So if the Astros could win a series, that could mark really a nice accomplishment for them at this beginning stage of the season, because they have not beaten the Rangers in a series since June of 2008. Two balls and a strike. Rangers fans will be treated to that series with the Angels coming in, and it'll be Vargas, Hansen, and Weaver for the Angels, Holland, Harrison, and Darvish for the Rangers. A good early season matchup. Altuve over to Wallace. And Wright has retired the first 2.
Look at that last at bat through our pitch by pitch presented by Steel Dealers. A good slider to start things. That can really help against the left-hand hitter. Fastball misses in and then tries to spot away. Got to make sure he can utilize that slider well. That's going to be the key effective pitch against the left-hand hitters.
Martin's the batter. High to right field and backing up. Rick Ankiel in front of the 373 sign on the warning track. 2 outs.
See Rick Ankiel turn to one of his players out there, bullpen mates, who no doubt was saying, you've got room, and that can be so helpful for an outfielder.
Cole Porter is going to make a move, it would appear. One of those guys. There's Carlos Corpran out there with his mates in the bullpen. One of those guys helped Rick to know how close he was to the fence. Now it's bullpen time again, and we'll be right back.
as Josh Fields, the young right-hander, comes on. Astros, Dynamos, Rockets, and more. We have all your sports news covered. Check out Sportsnet Central 7 days a week at 6, 10, and midnight on Comcast Sportsnet, your home of your home teams.
Josh Fields is in the game. 27-year-old rookie just made his major league debut. His first appearance went well last night. He was the first overall pick in the Rule 5 draft by the Astros, and the 20th overall pick in the 08 draft in June. So now he comes in for major league appearance number 2, facing Ian Kinsler, who's 0 for 3. There's ball 1, and I thought it was a good time for Bo Porter to use him last night, Jeff. He came in and got Craig Gentry, struck him out in the 8th inning with the score 5-0 Rangers. So not a lot of pressure and just one batter to face.
Yeah, it's good to get those out of the way early. You don't want to be sitting down in that bullpen too long, dwelling on the fact, am I going to get in? When's it going to be? Who's it going to be against? And that was, like you said, was the right situation. Not a lot of pressure down in the game right there. Allowed him to go out there and focus on getting that hitter out.
He has a crisp fastball, good curveball. Better control last year. And 94 with that one, and it's 1-2 to Kinsler. Paid attendance today is 15,831. Watching Josh Fields of Hull, Georgia. He had 41 saves at the University of Georgia. In the air, the infielders move in for it on the right side. Wallace giving way to Altuve. Wesley Wright did well, retiring all 3, and Fields continues the good relief string for the Astros. It's 1-0 Rangers.
Bottom of the 7th, and fans around me might be talking about last game still, but that's not the case for the players. They had to be back on the field just 12 hours after that game, so definitely had to move on quick. Bo said it doesn't matter if you went 0 for 4 or 4 for 4. You have to put all your efforts in today's game. He also said if you're thinking about last night's game today, you're probably in the wrong sport. Strong statement there, but Bo's not just one that says things to say things, is he, guys?
No, he's a man of very carefully calculated words. He does not waste his words. Jason Castro leads it off. He's grounded out twice to second. And there's ball 1. Alexi Ogando has it going. The Astros have not scored for the last 15 innings. These tough Texas Rangers pitchers.
I was actually impressed with the way Bo Porter came into this season with all of the psychoanalysts kind of information for these guys. Usually a manager waits until things start going awry, but Bo Porter jumped the gun and got these guys in the right mental state right from the get-go.
Another ground ball to second. Kinsler drops it and recovers in time to get Castro. So 3 times he has retired Castro in this game. Bullpen action going for Ron Washington. Robbie Ross, the lefty. Tanner Shepard's the right-hander here in the 7th.
Well, just to look at Castro's day, rolling over 4 of 3. the last 3 at bats, that's a telltale sign that you're in an uncomfortable spot. Because anytime as a left-handed hitter, you're taking all these pitches and grounding out to second base, typically called a rollover. It's not where you want to be. He's in a tough spot right now. And I know it's early on. The numbers, when you look up at the scoreboard, a lot of zeros piling up, but it's still early in the season. There's plenty of season left to turn those things around. Just hopefully he does it sooner than later.
Maxwell showing bunt, taking that one. He has struck out twice. Hector Ambrose is warming up in the Astros bullpen.
Quickly back on Bo Porter, and I'm sure we'll be talking about his slogans all year long, but we have heard a lot lately about ignore the noise. He's also mentioned greatness is a lot of small things. Bill Brown uses that one continually. The road to being a champion is always under construction. I like that one.
Paid his dues, managing in the minors, coaching in the big leagues. 48 games he played with the Rangers in 01. And he was a football star as well as baseball at the University of Iowa. His football coach, Hayden Fry, from Iowa days, was here for the opener Sunday. Legendary coach from Texas days as well. And Bo tells a great story. Jeff, you might not have heard this one, about when Hayden Fry was recruiting him when he was in New Jersey. And he had a trip to the University of Miami, decided not to go there. Ground ball and backhanded. No need to throw because Maxwell is aboard with an infield hit to Elvis Andrus. That's hit number 4 for the Astros. So that's a start with 1 out, and it's Rick Ankiel coming up.
This is just put it in your pocket and eat it, but that's impressive. The ground covered by Andrus at shortstop. That speed of Justin Maxwell is going to beat it out. By the way, hanging breaking ball right there. Maxwell gets the infield single. He had a good swing on a previous slider. Maybe one of the few guys anyway with the Astros in that order that has had good swings on the breaking balls.
It looks like Ron Washington recognized that some of those off-speed pitches are creeping up in the zone a little bit. Maybe Ogando getting a little tired, a little fatigued, and he's going to go out and check on him.
He's 94 pitches in and he's out. And Robbie Ross, the left-hander, has been warming up. Rick Ankiel due up next. We'll see if a lefty on lefty matchup is what Bo Porter wants when we come back with a score 1-0 Rangers. Ross coming in, and Rick Ankiel is going to leave for a pinch hitter, J.D. Martinez, as Ross, with 58 appearances last year, went 6-0 with a 2.22 ERA. He's readying for his first appearance of 2013. Well, he really came out of the gate last April with a 4-0 record, a 1.93 ERA after only 6 games at Double-A. He made it as a spring training non-roster invitee to the Major League roster last year.
He was a huge force on the positive side for the Rangers in that bullpen a year ago.
It's J.D. Martinez pinch hitting for Rick Ankiel.
A guy that contributes in a big way. Isn't always one of the veteran guys. Sometimes the youngster that gets called up.
Runner first is Maxwell, 1 out with a 1-0 lead. And Martinez backs away. J.D. was a pinch hitter last night for Brett Wallace and made the final out in that 7-0 Texas win. The 2-hit shutout by Darvish and Kirkman. Somehow Michael Kirkman's work got lost in everything else that Yu Darvish did last night. That was one game to remember.
Yeah, that was really unfair to Kirkman to get overshadowed by you like that.
Well, there's a story by Brian McTaggart that Alex White could be going for Tommy John surgery. 1 ball, 1 strike. After getting an elbow sprain, and he's seeking a second opinion from Dr. James Andrews, who is reviewing White's MRI results. Decision is expected soon. Alex White is currently on the 60-day DL.
When you're struggling to score runs, and I think the Astros qualify in that category right now, is the running game something you turn to? It was a big part of what the Astros did along with that power game on the spring. And I think Justin Maxwell, with 20 career stolen bases, a guy that can provide some speed for you.
It's 2-1. 2-1 is a good running count.
This late in the game, bringing in a left-hander, offset Rick Ankiel and force Bo Porter's hand to bring in J.D. Martinez. It also makes it just as tough for Justin Maxwell over there at first base to get a read and actually get a good jump to steal second.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
Get the lefty on the hill. He's also semi-quick to the plate from what we've seen. And you look at a year ago when he pitched in 58 games, he allowed just 2 stolen base attempts, 1 successful, 1 not, and that says guys don't have a good read on him.
Grounded foul. Comes out of the way.
Get that guy that's quick enough on the hill, whether right-handed or left-handed, and the first base coach will just turn to the base runner and say, not now. It's not the time to try to run.
Yeah, it's that first base coach's job to have that stopwatch, like I think Dave Clark is holding on to over there, and keep track of the times to home plate. And it looks like Ross has definitely got one of those times you're going to shake your head and say, nah.
Still 2-2 to last year's Astros RBI leader with 55, J.D. Martinez.
But there is some situations where the runner at first base gets a pretty good lead and can take a peek in at that catcher and maybe pick up a sign or two or recognize when the off-speed pitch is going to be thrown. And usually pitchers have a tendency to focus on home plate a little bit more when they have that off-speed pitch in their hand. You can kind of creep out there a little bit.
That move right there that we just saw, stepping off and bluffing, does nothing in my opinion. You're not running at that point.
A line shot, he hooked it, and it goes foul into the left field corner.
Astros hitters have just not been able to square the ball up in the field of play. They've done a good job turning on some fastballs right here like JD did, but just too much hook on it and got in the corner. Foul territory.
Yeah, you want those noisemakers to be fair.
Bobby Ross, 24 years old, from Nicholasville, Kentucky. Was a second-round pick in 08 by the Rangers. His father Chuck was Milwaukee's second-round pick in 75 and played 5 years in the minors. Now 3-2.
Well, you almost have to be on the run here. At some point, you've got to trust a hitter to make contact.
Ranger bullpen has been reworked since last year.
The old 3-2 timeout, step out by J.D. Martinez right there.
Yeah.
Get the pitcher out of rhythm, maybe tip him off a little bit, make a mistake right here. J.D. can jump on it and hammer it like he did that fastball earlier in the AB.
Runner going, ground ball third. Beltre takes a peek at second. No play there. He gets out number 2 at first with Maxwell advancing.
Yeah, having Maxwell on the move keeps the club out of the double play. That's a positive, and now in scoring position.
Matt Dominguez turned one around at about 100 miles per hour from Aroldis Chapman last year in Cincinnati. Very impressive. Ron Washington with Robbie Ross on the mound is going to get percentages going in a different sort of way than they were on that occasion. He has a right-hander, Tanner Shepard's, warming up. And Robbie Ross has just retired J.D. Martinez. That's the only batter he faces in this game. Pitching change again with the score. Texas 1, Houston 0. Seventh inning, the defending AL West champ Oakland A's visit Minute Maid Park for a 3-game series. It all starts with Astros pregame live Friday at 6:30 on Comcast Sportsnet. Your home for your home team. We take a look at Friday's pitching matchup brought to you by Chevron. Care for your car. It's Dan Straley, who in 7 major league starts was 2-1 last season for Oakland with a 3.89 ERA. He led the minors in strikeouts before being promoted. And Brad Peacock, acquired in the Judd Lowry trade from Oakland, had a very good spring for the Astros. With the A's number 4 prospect entering this year, he'll be an Astro making his debut with them.
It is jump on somebody time right here, as you've got a second-year major league pitcher, and Matt Dominguez has a chance against this guy who gave up 47 hits in 32 innings over the course of his lone season in the big leagues.
Tanner Shepard's 26 years old, giving up the 6 home runs. He's from Mission Viejo, California, and Fresno State.
Get off me, ball.
Yeah, that's right in on the thumbs, and it's no balls, 2 strikes for Tanner Shepard, a supplemental pick after the first round of the 09 draft.
It's the old Frigidaire fastball deep in the kitchen.
Good grief.
Shepard's last pitched on Friday against the Padres in a series they had at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. Turning back towards second, where Maxwell represents the tying run. Michael Kirkman, a lefty, is warming up now for the Rangers. Ronnie Cedeno's on deck. Dominguez pops it up. Kinsler coming in to end the Astros scoreless 7th inning. And we move to the 8th with the score 1-0 Rangers. run scored on a double play ball hit by Nelson Cruz in the 6th inning. Now Hector Ambriz will be pitcher number 4 for Houston. Last year he was 1-1 with the Astros with a 4.19 ERA and really showed good poise on the mound. Had to fight for a job this spring. Came through spring in good shape. And he claims this 8th inning role now with his club down by a run.
Pitched in 9 games on the spring, allowed just a couple of runs in 8 1/3 innings. So, yeah, it's a solid effort. Not sure that 8 innings leaves a guy feeling like, okay, I'm absolutely ready for anything that comes my way once you get to opening day.
He's healthy. I know they were concerned about rolling that ankle early in spring. Probably cut down on the innings he could have pitched, but has a reasonable track record, and Bo felt comfortable enough with the 8 or 9 innings he's pitched in spring to go with him out of camp.
JD Martinez stays in the game in right field after pinch hitting for Rick Ankiel. Josh Fields went 1/3 of an inning, allowing no hits, no runs, no walks, no strikeouts. Wesley Wright, a 1-2-3. Last out of the 6th and first 2 outs of the 7th. Elvis Andrus is the batter. He's 0 for 3. Dominguez plays even with the bag. Now he's creeping in a little bit closer at third. And it's ball 1. He'll be followed by Berkman and Beltre as Andrus tries to get it stirred up for the Rangers. That's a strike, and that makes it 1-1.
Doesn't look like Andrus is overly concerned about trying to bunt. No. Leading off the inning right here.
He's a good offensive player, isn't he, Jeff?
He's pretty dynamic. I mean, there's a bunch of things this guy can do. He can shoot gaps, you know, always at the top of the triples leaders during the season. Can drive in some runs. Now showing the patience to lead off an inning, taking some pitches and see what Ambriz has for the other guys behind him to take a look.
There was a time in this game where it seemed that major league clubs could land a shortstop that could hit 30-40 home runs a year and do it rather easily. It's not the case anymore.
Smash through the left side.
Now the Rockets head to Sacramento tonight with 8 games to go and the 6th place playoff seed in sight. Rockets Kings tonight at 8:30 only on Comcast Sports. So the Western standings in the NBA. Rockets right there in that 7th spot. 8 games over 500 and some work to be done.
I'd love to get in that 6th position, of course.
There's some powerhouses towards the bottom of that list right there, all vying for spots in playoffs.
Berkman looks at it. It's strike 1 to Lance. He's been on twice on bases on balls. Lefty Xavier Cedeno's warming up in the Astros bullpen. Berkman is called for a swing on that one by Andy Fletcher, and it's a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Hector Ambriz, 28 years old, from Orange, California, went to UCLA. He has a very good camaraderie with his bullpen mate, Edgar Gonzalez, who's the long man in the Astros bullpen. Edgar gives Hector a rough time.
Probably because he went to UCLA, which is a satellite school of the University of California. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay.
Have you helped that UCLA baseball program survive like Cal's?
I am officially a partial owner, much like Jeff Kent, of the California Golden Bears. Yeah, they came to us and made a strong push to the ex, or at least the professional alumni from Cal baseball, and they were quite effective in doing so.
Do you get a private suite with that?
That'd be a negative, Brownie.
I'll bet the money comes rolling in after a successful season, though.
Well, they picked a good season to have us donate after going to the World Series like that. They gave us something to cheer for at least.
Berkman out to left center field. That could shoot the gap and be extra bases for Lance. And Lance hits one that rattles around there And here's a chance to score with Andrews coming to the plate. The ball in, not in time. RBI double by Berkman and a 2-0 Ranger lead as he extends his Minute Maid Park hitting streak to 15 games.
Lance can do that as well as anybody. I know the pitcher's down in the zone, maybe a middle to middle in, but he can do a good job of getting his hands inside the ball and getting that barrel and driving it the other way, as opposed to most hitters might be trying to pull that ball, but he does a great job of driving that ball in that gap. And with the way Chris Carter's been playing left field here at Minute Maid, closer to the scoreboard and giving that gap, that ball had an easy time. And it took Chris a long time to get to that ball and get it back in.
Just
almost made the play.
Exceptional left-hand hitter, Lance Berkman. And we've watched and commented about Chris Carter in left field and trying to watch fairly as he tries to establish himself in left field. He's made all the plays, but can he get to this type of play and make the big play that's needed by pitchers? Yet to be seen.
Julio Bourbon is the pinch runner for Berkman at second with Beltre the batter. It's hit number 7 for the Rangers. There's strike 1 to Beltre, who's 1 for 3. Well, Berkman's had a big trip back to Houston with 6 hits in this 3-game series and 3 runs batted in. And he is the all-time leader in several categories at Minute Maid Park in hits, in homers, and runs batted in. Tap to third. Dominguez throwing on the run, safe. Here's Wallace throwing to Cedeno at third, safe there. Well, Beltre gets an infield hit, and Bourbon, the pinch runner, advances.
That's all you could do as a third baseman right there. That's a tough play. You're playing a big right-handed hitter like Adrian Beltre, probably back closer to the outfield grass, and he gives you that chop change up in the infield, and you got to come flying in as hard as you can. It's a do-or-die play for him. Opts to go with the glove and tries to make the play, which was a good play. He made it clean, but just too much time for Beltre to get down first baseline.
I think that's about as well as that could be played. And the thing is, once you do try to get that out at first base, and you have aggressive base running out there, you're likely giving up another 90 feet to another base runner.
Now it's first and third for David Murphy with nobody out. He's 1 for 3. Pops that one back for strike 1.
Yeah, in a perfect world, the third baseman would have the wherewithal to maybe arm pump to first base and catch that runner at second base, maybe getting a little bit bigger lead trying to advance to third base.
I think Matt Dominguez is good enough at third base. He feels he can get a lot of guys on that play.
I agree, and I think with Adrian running right there, he thought he had a chance at him. Getting into that danger zone right here. Nobody out, runners at first and third. You don't want to let this thing get out of hand this late in the game.
Absolutely, Jeff. And 2-0. That's a margin the Astros certainly have to feel they can surmount with 2 at-bats remaining. But if it gets bigger, of course, that will give the somewhat untested Ranger bullpen, as far as the 8th inning part of it, a lot more room to work. Joe Nathan, the closer, has the best save percentage of any active reliever, but the 8th inning is a little bit different for the Rangers this year. Murphy swings and misses at it, and that's a strikeout. That's a big out, number 1. Now a double play gets him out of the inning.
What a nice job by Castro behind the dish. Watch him go down and keep this ball right in front. Yes, they get the strikeout, but they also keep the runners at bay and the chance for the double play to get out of the inning.
Such a luxury for pitchers to know that your catcher's going to bail you out back there when you try and bury a pitch for the strikeout.
Very well done.
He is so improved this year with that added knee flexibility. Play like that can really add up. Now it's Cruz batting. He's 1 for 3, especially if a double play ball follows it here. Another one in the dirt, ball 1.
That's great work.
That was impressive right there. That wasn't the easiest ball to block.
That's not one where you can say, well, I need to drop to my knees and square up. This is do or die. Just get there, see if you can get some part of the body in front. And what he's doing really nicely is not trying to catch the baseball, keeping the glove down to some extent and utilizing the chest protector.
Yeah, it's one thing to keep the runner from scoring from third, but he also kept Adrian at first base by doing a great job on that one too, keeping the double play in order still.
1-1 as Cruz can't catch up with the Ambrose fastball.
Went mono right there.
It did. That's fun to watch.
Yeah, it is fun to watch. You get these big hitters up there and you see them take a big hack at a fastball like that.
Another one in the dirt makes it a 2-ball, 1-strike count. Andrus led off the inning with a single. Then Berkman with the RBI double made it 2-0. He advanced on the Beltre infield hit, or the pinch runner rather for him. Bourbon advanced. So Bull Porter's club shut out last night. Trails 2-0 as Lance has left the game for the pinch runner. Lance was on base 3 times today with the RBI double and a pair of walks. He'll take a nice on base average on to Arlington, Texas. Foul ball there. And the count's 2-2 on Cruz. So if Berkman has one of his good years, and he's had several, then that will really help make up for the loss of Hamilton.
Yeah, they almost might be asking him to more fill the shoes of Josh Hamilton as opposed to David Murphy, who's a great outfielder and handles the bat extremely well. But I think Lance is probably going to be called upon to be more of the power RBI guy.
I think a lot of the fortune of the Texas Rangers this year lies within his shoes.
Have to agree with you. Foul ball. You know, teams lose a premier player like a Josh Hamilton, and what they normally say is, well, we don't expect one guy to do what he did. We think that so-and-so might have a better year than he did last year, and they mention usually about 4 or 5 guys who had performed better than they did the previous year, and that's probably a pretty good way to look at it, right?
And it's always, I mean, that's the easy answer to go with, but I'm sure they're pretty happy with having Lance in that lineup, knowing that they just picked him up relatively easily off the free agent market and inserted him into that DH role.
Broken bat looper, and that will be in for an RBI hit for Nelson Cruz to make it 3-0 Rangers. The throw from Maxwell into second base, and it's first and third. Cruz driving in his 3rd of the year on the broken bat, and it's the 4th hit of the inning for the Rangers.
Yeah, sometimes it's not a, I mean, you make a good pitch and the guy just does a good job of fighting it off and getting it over the shortstop's head for a hit.
Some guys just have a knack for driving in runs. Maybe they're just that good. They can get jammed and get base hits, but Nelson Cruz has been a run producer.
Anybody else, you might say they get a little bit lucky at times, but Nelson Cruz, having done it for so many years, you're expecting it from him.
Now the home plate umpire heads for the hill, breaks up that conference with A.J. Pierzynski waiting to bat. Pierzynski, with the Rangers sitting on 9 hits right now, has a couple of those. Double play situation here.
I think A.J. Pierzynski is one of the guys that's being counted on to add a little more offense, catch a steady basis of games behind the plate.
True.
And why wouldn't you, after you hit 27 home runs in Chicago, moving into a ballpark like Arlington's?
Yeah.
You know, he could equal that.
Yeah, that was the best power year he's had in his long career. And when you're talking about Lance Berkman, you're talking about a guy, yes, he was injured a year ago. Yes, he didn't put up big numbers, but the year previous to that, 2011, 31 bombs and 94 ribbies.
Carter over toward the left field corner.
Oh, no.
He dropped it. And now run number 4 will come home. So Carter probably thinking about the runner and trying to do things in a hurry, unable to make that catch, draws the error on it. Pierzynski reaching on the play, and it's 4-0 on the error, which is the Astros' first error of the year.
Well, there are errors, and then there are errors like this, and these stand out flagrantly in the big league ball game. You know, we talked about, can Carter make that play, the tough one toward left center field? He just came up shy, but this is the kind you must make.
Yeah, giving away outs to a team like the Rangers or anybody else in the American League for that matter is going to come back to haunt you a little bit. And you could see he was going to the line, maybe a little cautious because that line does get a little close to the stands over there, but in the process tried to get around the ball maybe took his eye off a little bit, focusing on that runner at third base and having to make that throw home.
Mitch Moreland's the batter now with runners at first and second and one out. Yeah, it appeared that he was trying to get behind that ball and get everything going toward the plate for a strong throw, and just didn't make the play.
We talked about the poise of Yu Darvish last night and how he dealt with a very tough situation. Watching Chris Carter right here. Very mature young man.
Pierzynski was credited with a sac fly on that, so the RBI, AJ's first of the year. And the official score ruling that if Carter had caught the ball, Beltre would have scored on it. 1 ball, 1 strike. And he's credited, we're being told, with a sacrifice fly on that.
That changes everything for AJ. That went from from an out basically in your stat column.
Ambriz to Cedeno. He drops the ball trying to make the exchange. He got the out at second, but instead of a double play, it's out number 2 with Cruz going to third and Moreland reaching. Things coming unraveled defensively for the Astros here on back-to-back plays.
Yeah, this is where your teammates test you a little bit right here. And you can see Ambriz after the play was a little disappointed that the exchange wasn't made by Cedeno on this, knowing that he's thrown 23 pitches in this inning already, and things are getting a little wild. We could have used that double play right there.
Well, that falls also under the category of extremely routine in the big leagues and not made.
You don't expect that from a guy like Ronnie Cedeno, whose history in the big leagues is more predicated towards his defensive attributes.
Leonis Martin takes, and there's a strike. Martin 0 for 2, and he was hit by a pitch his first time up. A rough inning for the Astros here. They trailed 1-0. Now they're down 4-0. They've had 2 missed plays. Foul back, and it's 0-2 to Martin. The Astros will have Cedeno leading off the bottom of the 8th inning, then Altuve and Wallace to follow.
And this is where some of those missed plays, errors, incomplete double plays kind of force a guy like Ambriz, who's throwing 25 pitches in this inning. It'll probably, I mean, thankfully there's a day off tomorrow, but if there wasn't, it'd probably shut him down and tie Bo Porter's hands a little bit with his bullpen going into the next series.
True.
I think the one thing Bo can be extremely grateful for right now and hopeful with is that starting pitching. It's been good.
It has been good.
Well, 3 solid starts today. Humber 5 2/3 innings, 1 run. Last night Harrell 6 innings, 1 run. Sunday night Norris 5 2/3 innings, 2 runs. Ground ball first. Wallace makes the play, and 8 go to the plate for the Rangers in a 3-run 8th inning with 4 hits and an error and a couple of men left on base. They're up 4-0. Have been stymied by Ogando, Ross, and Sheppers for 7 innings today. So these fans hoping that they can get something rolling here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Cedeno, Altuve, and Wallace due up. Final game of this 3-game series. A brand new one starts Friday night with the Oakland A's in town. An off day coming tomorrow. Ronnie Cedeno singled in the 3rd, and he struck out in the 5th inning. It was an unusual ruling on Pierzynski's fly ball. He was credited with a sacrifice fly. The ball was dropped by Chris Carter in left field. Don't see that too often. There's strike 1.
Well, you don't see an outfielder in the major leagues drop a fly ball like that very often.
There's a play by the pitcher. And it's out number 1. So Sheppard's coming in. And the Rangers are piecing this one together quite well so far. They're hoping that Joakim Soria could come back after being out with Tommy John surgery. They signed him, and with the thought in mind that he can become an 8th inning man later this year. And he's been a closer, so that could be dynamic with Soria and Nathan if they can get both of them working well together. Jose Altuve's 1 for 3. It'll be interesting too, Jeff, to see this weekend how many runs the Rangers score off that Angels pitching staff that was absolutely torched in spring training this year.
Yeah, there was a lot of question marks going into the season with the way they performed throughout the season, or throughout spring, sorry. And that opening day, going extra innings, put their bullpen in a tough situation to move on from that series in Cincinnati. But they did a good job in that opening day of shutting them down for 7 straight. But this Texas Rangers lineup is going to tax anybody's starting staff.
Well, one thing you could say, Jared Weaver is a stud. First starter for the Angels. C.J. Wilson has a lot of weight on his shoulders. He's got to come through with a big year, but they need the other 3 guys in that rotation to step up. That's a team that should score a lot of runs.
What a lineup.
Yeah, that's going to be the least of their worries. But like you said, a lot of their 3, 4, 5 guys, there's going to be a lot of pressure on those guys. And like you said, C.J. Wilson performing up to expectations of that contract and the way he pitched in Texas. They're going to need to do that, because if that bullpen, their bullpen can survive, but if they get put under pressure consistently, you know, it's a good chance they may fold a little bit.
There's a liner by Kinsler and into right field for Altuve's 2nd hit of the game and 5th hit of this 3-game series.
The one thing that really stands out for me about Jose Altuve that says there was no fluke going on a year ago is the way he can hit solid line drives, or even just fight off pitches and go to right field and pull one down the left field line, and just uses the whole field so well.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. The first couple pitches of that AB really bored in on his hands a little bit, and he tried to turn on him a little bit. And that fastball was even middle in right there, you know, mid-90s, and he does a good job of fighting, you know, keeping that his hands in and just drive. I mean, he's driving the ball to right field. I know he's not going to drive the ball out of the ballpark, but he's still hitting good, firm line drives to right field.
Keeps that barrel delayed very well.
Tanner Sheppers comes out. Michael Kirkman will head for the mound, and we'll be back with the score. Texas 4, Houston 0.
For the perfect way to combine business and baseball, or a unique space to hold your next event, with state-of-the-art meeting spaces, Minute Maid Park can surpass all of your needs. Call 713-259-8800 for more information. Don't forget to ask about softball games and batting practice here at Minute Maid Park.
Michael Kirkman's in the game. He's pitcher number 4 for the Rangers. He finished the game last night for Yu Darvish, got the final out, gave up a hit. Last season he was 1-2 with a 3.82 ERA. And he's facing Brett Wallace for a lefty-on-lefty matchup. Wallace is 0-2 with a walk. Wallace hits lefties pretty well.
Oh, might have been a little up in the zone, Ash. I don't know.
Continues to be breaking balls nonetheless, and whether it's lefty or righty on the hill, Brett Wallace is going to have to prove to somebody he can handle that pitch.
Kirkman, a 5th-round pick in 05 from Lake City, Florida. There's strike 2. This was his first opening day roster this season. Spent portions of the last 3 years with the Rangers. Ron Washington with 3 lefties in his bullpen right now. Joe Ortiz and Robbie Ross, who pitched earlier, the other 2. Bo Porter was thinking about 3 if the right 3 guys had made the club from the left-handed side. Kirkman's listed at 6'4". Foul ball by Wallace, and it's no balls, 2 strikes.
Gets a piece on a 3rd consecutive slider now.
And we haven't seen too many mistakes from Rangers pitchers. You know, normally you see these guys maybe flip one in there. Only a couple times we've seen a couple up in the zone, but they haven't been barreled too often by Astro hitters either.
Wallace is down on strikes.
4 straight sliders. That one was hung, and I'm sure Brett is grumbling to himself. He knows he's got to find a way to get back on this breaking ball.
Yeah, and considering the count and the pitcher on the mound, that was a good pitch to hit with a 2-strike count on you.
That was a mistake. There's no way around that.
Carlos Pena is 1 for 3. He got an infield hit in the 6th inning. 2 outs now. Altuve the runner. Chris Carter's on deck. Joe Nathan is the closer with the 4-run lead now for Texas. Probably would be a situation if the score stays the same way of seeing Joe Nathan, even though it wouldn't be a save situation. Usually, as Jeff has been cluing us in, and I think it's a good idea for managers to try to use everybody as soon as possible in the season. So why not use a closer, even though it's not a save situation? If he would not be pitching until Friday night, that'd be a long time between appearances. Foul back, and it's no balls, 2 strikes. These closers are treated very carefully, aren't they, Plummer?
Extremely, yeah. Even in spring training, and like you were saying, to open the season for a closer to go 4 games without pitching, it would be a little unique, especially after their spring training regimens are usually pretty relaxed early in spring, and then they kind of build up going back-to-back days towards the end of spring. But to break out of camp and have 4 days off would be not tough, but it would kind of, you know, you want to see some live, you want to see a hitter standing there and face that guy.
Strikeout for Kirkman. He whiffs Wallace and Pena back-to-back to preserve the Rangers' 4-0 lead through 8.
To the top of the 9th inning. Join us this Saturday, April 6th, as the Astros take on the Oakland A's. First pitch at 6:10. The first 10,000 fans will receive an inaugural American League West baseball card. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit Astros.com to get your tickets today.
Saturday night, that's Eric Bedard and Bartolo Colon at 6:10. Reiner Cruz will be pitcher number 5 for Bo Porter today. Reiner comes in this 4-0 ball game after Hector Ambrose worked the 8th. Ambrose in 1 inning allowed 4 hits, 3 runs with no walks, 1 strikeout. Reiner Cruz last year 1-1 with a 6.05 ERA, and he worked last night 2/3 of an inning, allowing 2 hits and 1 run. Joe Nathan's warming up for the Rangers, who have Ian Kinsler in the box, ready to open the 9th inning. Kinsler's 0 for 4. Cruz gave up a homer to Kinsler last night. That's strike one. That was quite a storm we had last night. There is Nathan warming up. Heavy rain coming in at the end of last night's ball game, so it took a long time for some people to get home after that. Visibility was very poor.
Yeah, if you were willing to challenge that rain as a driver, driving more than, I don't know, maybe 8-10 miles an hour, you are pressing your luck.
You were. Out on Interstate 10, there were a lot of folks with their flashers on.
You were among them.
So were you. We ought to have a race home after the ball game.
Well, let's do it today.
1 and 2. That might be kind of tough with rush hour. We wouldn't exactly be racing at any great clip, would we?
You think it's wise to warn the law enforcement officers out there?
It's always wise to warn them when you and I are loose on the roads. Blummer, of course, a veteran of Southern California traffic, is totally unfazed by any of these problems.
Let's jump on the 405 about 5 in the afternoon.
Yeah, pretty well seasoned in. Oh, boy. Speaking of rushing something up there,
Kinsler,
I wouldn't be happy about that either.
No.
Yeah, especially when the pitcher who brings that up and in cheese walks toward home plate as if maybe I'm ready. Maybe we've gotten to that stage of the ball game.
It looks like Eddie Perez is giving him a little grief right there about that pitch.
I think the rivalry is starting, guys.
This will bring on rivalries.
Whoa,
that was dangerous.
Yeah, that's not.
And I really think as a pitcher, it's incumbent upon you to stay back there by the rubber and just get the new baseball.
I mean, we all have integrity and egos and things like that, but there's no reason to be throwing at people's heads like that.
Ground ball third. Dominguez across to Wallace.
Well, and I'm not implying that he did throw at his head. I don't want to make that clear, but like Ash is saying, you know, be the better sportsman in the whole situation and back off a little bit and say, hey, that one got away, my bad, let's keep playing baseball.
Well, I know guys like Tony La Russa, pretty fair manager for a long time. He used to make the argument that if you didn't intend to do that and you're that bad, you don't belong in the big leagues. Now, I don't know that I buy that argument, but I think when you do slip and have that happen as a pitcher, you probably need to back off and let it be known that that was a mistake and not walk toward the plate and maybe make the hitter think otherwise.
Okay. Andrus the batter. He's 1 for 4. Reiner had those problems several times last year. He dropped that arm slot a little bit and ball will sail up and in on a right-handed batter, and that's just a consequence of that arm dropping sometimes for him, and it is scary.
Well, if it happened to my club very often, I would have to say that the next consequence would be you're going to have to deal with some of our big swingers.
Okay. Big cut there by Andrus. 2 balls and
that is a big league heater right there.
Yep. You know, we've had many questions, Blummer, about this developing into a rivalry. Well, when you play a team 18 times, there's a lot better chance of that happening than playing them 6 times a year.
I agree. And These situations come up throughout the course of a season, and they get exaggerated when you're facing guys 18 times a year, and ball players usually have some pretty long-term memories.
They really do.
That's indelible ink that goes into the book on that kind of stuff.
Very true.
Now Bourbon is the batter. He came in to pinch a run for Berkman and scored a run in the 8th inning. Julio Bourbon, another of the speedy Texas outfielders. 317 his average in spring training. This was the 3rd time he's made the Rangers opening day roster. Last year he spent all year at Round Rock for the first time since 08. He missed half of 11 with an ankle injury.
Bayou.
Linda Ronstadt, Blue Bayou?
Yes.
Indeed that was.
It used to be the big line. I'd say it was a Linda Ronstadt heater.
Well, that can't be the big line anymore because
it could be
today's
a little
players don't know her.
Yeah, could be outdated with some of these guys in our dugout.
It's 2 balls and a strike. Leo Bourbon was born in Starkville, Mississippi. His father taught at Mississippi State. He went to the University of Tennessee. Has a 284 lifetime average for 600 plus major league at bats. 2 balls, 2 strikes, but it's hard to really find him in that lineup a lot if everybody's healthy, we would think, in center field with Martine and Gentry playing so well.
He's the guy a couple of years back, 2-3 years back, that was going to be the center fielder of the future.
Yep. A sandwich pick after the 1st round in the 07 draft. Roller out to 3rd. Dominguez with the throw to Wallace. It's a 1-2-3 9th inning. And in the bottom of the 9th, Joe Nathan has been warming up. The Rangers lead it 4-0. It's Carter, Castro, and Maxwell. Brought to you by Progressive. Visit Progressive.com today. And by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at Southwest.com. Paul Bykowski is the man at the controls, our director today. Rangers lead at 4-0 over the Astros. Paul does not want to be in that rush hour traffic, so he would like to see a furious bottom of the 9th inning rally and maybe even extra innings today from Minute Maid Park.
And I don't want to be the one that raises any kind of alarm, but especially this early in the season as a ball player, you don't want to hit the panic button too soon with things. But there are some telltale signs in this offense right now that should bring some concern and alert to the coaching staff as well as the players, which I'm sure are recognizing this. But the rate of strikeouts for the Astros hitters these first 3 games is alarming to me.
40 strikeouts in the first 3 games. Joe Nathan, 37 of 40 in saves last season, has the best save percentage, even slightly better than Mariano Rivera of any active pitcher. And one of the very best around, obviously. He comes in to face Chris Carter. Carter, Castro, and Maxwell. And there's strike one.
Well, you mentioned 40 strikeouts of Astros hitters, and right now there have been 75 outs for Astros hitters.
Puts that in perspective right there.
So you're talking over 50% of the outs have been strikeouts.
Here's one for you guys from Sports Illustrated's baseball opening week section. In the 8th and 9th innings of all major league games last year, 31% of the batters who went up to the plate did not make contact. They either struck out or walked.
That's higher than I would have guessed.
It is pretty high.
Of course, when you throw walks in there, as many walks as at times we can see in the game, maybe that changes that.
And then strikeout number 41 of this series for Rangers pitching.
And so it gives you a good example of how high stress some of these late inning games can be. You know, the 8th and 9th inning, especially the 9th inning with these closers coming in, these are dominant pitchers who come in with electric stuff, but also the games are on the line, so there's a lot of pressure on him to throw strikes, make it a little wild with some of his stuff, and obviously hitters who are behind in the game are putting a lot of pressure on themselves to come back in that ball game, and it creates a lot more stress in those ABs and some of those pitches that pitchers have to throw too.
Joe Nathan gets another base ball. The count is 1-0. Bo Porter came out and talked briefly with Andy Fletcher, the home plate umpire, between the top of the 9th and bottom of the 9th. Not sure what the discussion was about.
It was more animated than this at one point, and it wasn't. I don't want to say it looked like a huge argument going on, but left me wondering if there was a warning issued to both benches.
Yeah, because that's usually what provokes a manager to come out of his dugout, is when they get those warnings for what hopefully was a pitch that just got away. But usually it's the opposing manager who got thrown out and didn't have a chance to retaliate who gets the warning and doesn't have a chance to come back and answer what was given to their team.
3 balls and a strike. Joe Nathan with a 4-run lead. Has 1 out in the home 9th. And that one's foul back for a 3-2 count on Castro. Nathan's last outing, he got a save Friday against San Diego at the Alamo Dome, but he did give up a solo homer. He's a 5-time All-Star. This is his 2nd year with the Rangers. Joe was actually born in Houston. Went to a Division III college in New York. And he gets a strikeout, and that is number 42 of the series for Rangers pitchers. So now an average of 14 strikeouts per game in this series.
That's mind-boggling.
That is.
Justin Maxwell got an infield hit in the 7th. He's 1 for 3.
There's really no reason for the Astros hitters to be playing tight. You know, they should be in these games having the time of their life. Nobody's put any expectations on them going into this season. So why not go out there a little freer, a little more relaxed?
Well, do you think they are tight?
Yeah, the swings they're taking, it looks like they are tight.
Justin Maxwell's not getting cheated here, but you'd like to see more of that.
And at times they look a little rushed, and that's a sign to me when things start getting rushed, when you start to get a little out of sorts. When guys are going really good, the game seems to slow down a little bit. They're a little more cocky and arrogant in the box, taking their time, but these guys seem a little rushed.
And that one up in his eyes, a strikeout. Nathan strikes out the side, and what a strikeout series it's been for the Ranger Hurlers. 43 strikeouts in the 3-game series. They win 2 of the 3. And the final score today, as they have authored back-to-back shutouts of the Astros, is the Rangers 4, the Astros 0.